well, I guess we still got a little bit, but anytime you want to get your
Yeah.
recording right on your end.
Oh, nope. Let me do that. Hold on. Knew I was forgetting to do something.
My phone.
All right. All right. And
okay, live. So
now I'm recording.
Share this link, and then we're.
And I'll watch for it so I can retweet it out. So, your favorite site dropped some news.
Illuminati.
Yeah.
It's them. It's just like I just sit around because like we've all been through this process, right? And not being recorded a little bit spook at the inside. Anyone on the podcast has been through that the process, and you sit down and go, "What are we gonna name this?" And I remember Geek First. It took us a while. We had recorded, but then we read the intro because we didn't even have a title. Like we don't do, and we blah blah blah. And it's so funny because when meeting you guys and meeting like the Squadcast people, because I just like really I had heard about them before, but really learned about them, started listening this year and stuff. But that was one of the thing, not I'm like, oh, what about Suicide Squad? So it's so funny when I saw that. I was like, oh, good thing we didn't do anything like that. But it's just like, so like, so like the Illuminati, I get where they're going for, but obviously the Illuminati is like, you know, a conspiracy theory. So I feel like you name yourself that. I'm not sure if they're parroting that or if you have some people that like, because you're attaching yourself to something that is like a little like, oh, what is this secret society? I don't know, but I get it because it's just like I just feel like in the ones that we see, right, Deadline, Variety, the Hollywood Reporter, like will we ever see Illuminati out there being like a major one? Because the name, I don't know, but I wish all the power to them.
Oh yeah, I mean they've been definitely dropping. I was expecting more Moon Knight since they dropped some Moon Knight last week. So.
Oh yeah, no, they've been on a roll. That and I can't remember. Oh yeah, didn't they just share a star? They shared that Kenobi one, right? I think recently.
Yes, they did because I remember
Yeah.
we were having that discussion again. How you were upset it was again the Illuminati. But at least
yeah,
not.
no,
But at
that's
least,
because
it's just more the name. I get you at that point. It's their
oh
gimmick.
yeah,
Everyone's got their own.
oh yeah, like Falcon says in Civil War, everyone's got a gimmick nowadays. But no, that's what I said to Katie. Usually, I'd be like, oh, I don't know, but they've been pretty correct on their DC
Oh,
and
for crying
Marvel
out!
stuff lately too.
Yeah,
So
I mean, they've had the lockdown on Black Adam for a while.
yeah, they must got somebody good there, some friend casted that just knows everything. Because they just because even then, I've said this before, like the websites are like the B tier, C tier type of stuff. They usually get this information, but to get actual like the casting names, that's more rare. They'll get like a ballpark of who they've heard, but to be like, we've heard this specific name, and then a day later it comes out, yeah, that name has been cast. It's like, wow, they were right on the money. So that's why I think with that one in particular, whoever runs in their circles, they specifically have somebody very close to that project because they've just been on the ball with everything. So,
oh yeah,
yeah. So we're live now, and I sound all right
yeah,
there.
you do. Yeah, I'm just typing a quick
Okay,
retweet
yeah.
of it.
No, it's fine. I just changed up some gear because officially this weekend I'm gonna get all my stuff in here. I'm gonna get some maybe wall shelves actually because I was talking about this on after. Maybe I can't remember on After 9 if it came in or not, but I was talking about like I went to Harry Potter's world and I own Voldemort's wand, but I don't show it off. It just sits there. It just sits like it does nothing. And I have my wrestling, like I have the replica World Heavyweight Championships. And like, you know what? There's some stuff that's just sitting here that I'm looking at, like, oh, that's nice. Like my $100 Black Series Kylo Ren helmet that has the worst. Hang on one second. Like it has the worst speakers. You can't even hear anything. It's
It's so much money.
$100.
So much money.
It's $100 to not, and I'm not even done Kylo Ren as Halloween. I was gonna maybe this year with the hair, but I found out I can't dye my hair black when it's bleached blonde. So, oh, okay, I just lost little Kylo Ren. I didn't lose the big one. Unfortunately, just like Rise of Skywalker, he didn't make it through this cast.
Put it in the GUA chat. All right.
Yeah, we got a big one today.
Yeah, I agree with Brent. How long are we recording tonight? Until we're done. Is there anything on it right now that you initially want to cut? I tried to organize. I mean, I tried to really keep the big stuff like Miss Marvel kind of all goes together.
Yeah.
You know, our big stories are basically, I've kind of kept it. I mean, I wanted to, you know, I did put the Disney keeping their guns. That shouldn't be too long of a discussion, but I think it's valid at this point. And then Feige dropping in Empire some little gems about what they're looking at. So I tried to keep it the big stuff this week.
Yeah, that's a good thing that almost all the stories are big stuff. Yeah, there's stuff like the Miss Marvel stuff we could throw there and quick fire because I imagine these, like I said, I told it was talking about the stress because he had some questions about 616, but I said, oh, we're punting that to next week because
Yeah.
lack of news and we could talk about it just because I feel like the first two topics we're gonna be we got some stuff to say, so I'm ready,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. If you're ready, I'll do a countdown and I'm recording, you're recording. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the Negative Zone to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. My name is the Uncanny Chris.
I'm the podcaster of Mischief Trust now.
Alliance Assemble.
Assemble.
Oh, that
Here we
wasn't
go.
that was a little off. Oh.
we
That
got
was a little
lots. You got lots. There's lots in the brain, but it's Nathan somewhere giving us crap. But as you saw last week, it's not easy. It's no other podcast doing this over the webs is trying to sync up their voice. So last week he didn't. Last week he just barged in. We had no idea. But no, I thank Nathan last week for guest starring. It was fun to spice it up and everything like that. But we got a big one today, volume 26. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good, doing good. This was the last working day last official working day for me. I technically am working out of the house tomorrow, but basically no students, get to do some work, spend a little time with the family over this next couple of days for Thanksgiving for those of us in the U.S. at this point. So, because you in Canada had your Thanksgiving much earlier than us.
We're early, yeah. Good old October. Did a whole bunch of nothing. I worked.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's looking forward to a little downtime and making the final push to finals and after this.
Yeah, today I watched after work. I watched some Christmas movies and ate a bunch of donuts and whatnot. Had to run some errands, that's why I was running a little today. But yeah, just I had a craving for donuts. Was getting some groceries, and so you know what? There's lots of good donuts on sale, so I bought them and I ate them with eggnog. And
that sounds like a very structured plan there.
Oh, you have no idea. So it's one of those things when you grow up, when you're in a teen, you're like, I'm not like my mom, I'm not like father. And I always thought I was more like my dad because me and my mom always butted heads when I was younger. But now as I got older, I'm like, I'm just like my mother because she's that way where everything's down to the wire. You saw me freaking out when fandom wouldn't announce their schedule. I was like, every day, I'm like, I need to know. But no, I always plan for because I had a craving for donuts and I thought next week I'm gonna get donuts at some point, and today was that day, so it was good. I got like a cinnamon bun one, got sprinkles, a whole bunch of stuff. But where you on the first of all, shout out legendary bearded geek. He's in our YouTube chat. So as always, and fanboy Clay, how is your hair not growing? I shaved it, Clay. I'm not just yeah, it's not just like I shaved it and now it's gone. No, I am keeping this until probably until spring because I have, if everything COVID, so we'll see. But Taylor's wedding is in the summer and I'm his best man, so I will grow out for that. But I like the bald head. It's nice, especially in winter. It's great for the toque. Nothing gets wet. It's very like wrappable. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep it for a while. But as I just said in the YouTube chat, I'm gonna ask Chris a very important question after I'm done all this. But as I mentioned in the YouTube chat, we are live every Tuesday, usually 5-6 p.m. Eastern or Pacific. 8-9 Eastern, somewhere between then. For the next few weeks, all December, I'm not working at all nighttime, so we might have some guests on. I do want to have Brent on in the future, and as I've said before, like there's a very serious situation happening with Brent on our Patreon exclusive episode. Every time you follow him or you see him pop on your timeline, just hit him with a Mephisto picture. The holidays get people down all the time, and that would really cheer him up. So make sure you do that.
I do not subscribe to this idea, but that's it. Sorry, don't support it. You know my feelings on Mephisto.
Okay, but no, so yeah, you can watch us live. If not, we are here every Wednesday on the podcast feed. But before that, traveling back in time, Monday, you have World's Finest True Believers. You just dropped a retro Chris of one of probably, if you're a Batman fan, one of your favorite comic book of all time. I would say it's like it's in my top 10. I don't know where I place it, but it's one of those I feel like most Bat fans have it up there. For me, I love the story, but just the art alone is just tremendous in that.
Oh book. Yeah, Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth. Lisa came back for that one. Definitely one of her favorites. So January, I'll give you an early preview. We've got two favorite returning guests, and recording in January. So maybe one of them might drop in January, the one in February, but both recordings that are happening currently in January are Bat-centric. So
Oh, there you go. There's something that's a good time because I know it's not Christmas, but because it's probably because I was a kid and Batman Returns. Batman feels like Christmas sometimes, and I love seeing those bat
Technically a
pictures.
Christmas movie, just like Die Hard is.
I think Batman is, but I don't think Die Hard is. But that is an amalgam chat waiting to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Tuesday is our Counterpoint DC Alliance. They had a really good conversation yesterday talking about the future of DCU because it just, or sorry, the future of the CW. DCU's future is looking actually much more brighter somehow than the Arrowverse as they keep getting a show ending every week. But they had a good conversation there about multitude of things there. Like I said, Wednesday is us. Thursday is either Slice of Films or Power Rangers Alliance. Ranger Alliance.
Ooh,
They are
you keep
dropped.
on missing that name.
I always do. I'm sorry, Clay. I'm gonna get there one time. It's my fault for having to keep track of 50 shows, but we're hoping to. They might drop. I gotta talk to Clay. I'm hoping they're gonna drop some this Thursday because it was my bad. They kind of had some. They dropped the same day as Slice last week. But as Nathan said, like, oh, first of all, Nathan, people always, none of these people email me or tweet at me. I always got to hear their problems through other shows. He's like, oh, all these shows dropping on one day. Nathan, sometimes Star Wars Alliance is the problem because Star Wars Alliance was designed to record early Sunday and then drop Sunday. Oh, but then when you guys get pushed, it's not my fault that it's dropping. That's both to you two. And, once everything in the new year hits, it's going to level out because Mando will be over once Chris's shows, retros are done. So they'll be kind of like a new schedule. Friday, Super Civil Servants records the lives on YouTube. You can catch the replay on Saturdays. Also on Friday on the podcast feed of Superhero Discussions.
And we are off this week.
They're off this week.
So yeah, Greg's gonna drop a one of the retros at that point. But with Thanksgiving, we all want a kind of a week to recharge.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So you'll probably catch a retro there. They're also doing Superhero Discussions, Batman the Animated Series. If you want to have your heart broken, go listen to that because I don't care what Travis and Greg say. Christmas of the Joker is a classic episode. Like, oh, it's all right. So no, that I watch every year. It's fantastic, but it's really good because it's Greg's first time watching it. So he's in the camp right now where he kind of needs to be impressed because he wasn't impressed the first three. So and then the weekend you have the comics roundup all presented by Weird Science. So that is everything. Patreon. Me and Travis just dropped an episode last week, this past weekend, of us talking about Jared Leto's Joker and the 4 things I would change to see if I could find a way to love him. We talked about pitching our Spider-Man trilogy. If you like the Clone Saga, I found a way to, I think, make it work, so check that out. There's stuff planned December. Me and Travis might do another one. Me and Katie are bound to do a Marvel. I'll say Marvel versus Star Wars. It's not a versus, but that's just the way, like, comparing, because me and Katie have very our problems with both brands are very similar, but they're for the opposite brand. So we want to do that. And then there's some other ones. I don't want to announce the other Patreon exclusive work on it yet, just in case it doesn't get recorded, but we have tons of stuff. $1 tier support is $5 tier to get ad-free and exclusive early episodes. So that is everything. I'm ready to talk. Oh, question. I know we have a long show, but we'll make this quick. Where do you fall on the eggnog camp?
I have not had eggnog in a long time. I'm not opposed to it. I was really big into it as a kid, and I just, for some reason, haven't had any in years. Just hasn't had the same appeal, but I definitely am fine with it. But I'm not one. I'm like now as a coffee drinker, I'm a peppermint mocha kind of person around the holiday season. So get that creamer in here, and I'm good.
Okay, I just had to check. You gotta work it back in your life, sir. It does magical things. Maybe because I've been drinking it all day, but it's a great drink.
Ooh, that's gonna be tough to drink it all day. Ooh,
this eggnog is weird as an adult. Why? What? Oh, it is the off of Clay said in the chat. That's weird as an adult. There's no cutoff. It's all great. It's great all time, all years. Listeners, let us know. We're gonna put up polls, but let us know when this episode goes live. What do you think about eggnog? Maybe I'll put that as a poll as well. But I love eggnog and the shade that it gets, the big debate. Not rated R Deadpool, not Black Panther filming 2021. Eggnog. Yes or no,
Oh boy, all the things we get into with. So,
and the other thing I should mention too, because you mentioned that, because it's not till next month, but still with Christmas, I'm not sure what I'm talking to some shows. Some shows will be new as far as the network, but they might be either retros or they might pre-record something, like do a best of. Like I think that's what Jim's doing for Weird Sciences. Instead of covering the weekly comics, he's gonna do some sort of special episodes. So same thing with Marvel Alliance. We're not sure. If I'm not working and not busy, I might sit here. Even if Chris wants a week off, he can, or we might throw a retro. It just kind of depends, because that week is probably, it's crazy, but it's just like at the same time, I don't even know what because even in Canada, with COVID being better, but things have spiked recently in BC. where I live, but we'll see is so stuff like theaters close down again just for precautions before it gets worse. I don't even know if I'll be busy that week, but that's why there could be a arrive shows, either retros, or they might just not be there. So it's not anything. Adjust your feeds. They can take a week off if they like. So that's he keeps saying that for the next few weeks, just in case people are expecting something on a Monday or Tuesday. Oh, where is this? And it's not there. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that World's Finest will just for the week of Christmas and New Year's, there'll be 2 back-to-back retros. That way you don't have to worry about if you've never heard the retros, they're new to you. And if you had, you want to give it a listen, but no pressure. The new ones will come back, but we'll be pumping out the new ones until then. But we'll keep out the reminders. But we got a new one coming next week. It's going to be Katie. I won't tell you what it is. It's her first comic she's ever read.
Oh, that's exciting. That's a big first for everybody. What was your first comic you ever read?
Oh, geez. I don't even honestly remember. I know definitely it involved Batman. So
I'll say this because I'm the same. I don't know what issue because I like my cousins had a bunch. What do you think? What is the first one you purchased? For me, it's Killing Joke. That was the first one I ever bought money, read for the first time because everyone just says you got to read it. And then I did fall in love with it. The first one, like, this is my comic book. I have it.
That one I do remember. I remember talking about it on World's Finest True Believers. I purchased with my very own money the holofoil issue cover of when Superman returned, like the official, like that green holofoil cover saying he's back. At that point, that was my very first comic I bought with my money.
Very nice. Well, news time. We've done enough. We've done probably 10, 15 minutes of foreplay. Nathan's somewhere so mad. He's like, look at my intros. But Nathan, I gotta, you know what? You shouldn't get to count me because I have to deal with your guys' peanut gallery comments. So this is the place I have to debunk shows that people are putting out. I've heard there's a plant alliance coming. There's no plant alliance or anything, just
there's an animal alliance.
Yeah, that's 2021. The hosts though are really hard to deal with. This go is giving me a tough time.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about a little character I like to call Deadpool.
Wade Wilson, yes.
Oh yes, look at that. I saw the chimichanga. There we go.
Yeah, my camera, I still have like a lot of up here. I gotta work on it. It's come down eventually, but a new setup.
But yeah, we got a lot of news to talk about, but probably this is the biggest one that kind of took us all by surprise. Travis and I have gone back and forth with Boris Kitten and Krull about, like, sometimes I can't remember which ones. Oh yeah, we got, I think, Boris goes incoming, and then Justin goes.
They've both done incoming, so I don't know if it's a incoming scooper, or I don't know if one of them did it first, and it's like a poke the bear, because they definitely those are the two head ones, so they definitely compete. Like everyone talks about like Krull, and especially Friday, because like we'll get to, but Krull dropped this, and when Boris was gonna drop his stuff, I was like, let's see, and he actually had some good stuff too. I don't know if it was as flashy as Krull's, but still, it's like finally, I know what you're getting to, but finally, this was deeming of the incoming route.
Oh yeah, because it's been light. I mean, not saying anything they both haven't dropped as like news, but definitely not internet breaking news. And this definitely was close to internet breaking because of what it is. So yeah, Deadpool 3 is coming exclusive from Deadline. Marvel Studios and Ryan Reynolds tapped I'm gonna butcher this, the Molyneux sisters to pen the sequel. Deadline shared in a report that Marvel Studios is tapping the Wendy and Lizzie Molyneux to write Deadpool 3, with Ryan Reynolds set to return as a fan favorite superhero. Reynolds was reportedly involved in the hiring process of the sisters, indicating that he will have a heavy hand in the creative process of the third film, which I don't think either one of us were very surprised to do that. This has been his baby since the quote unquote leaked test footage of him as the character. But this is also the first Deadpool film, obviously, where Marvel Studios will work hand in hand with Reynolds and Team Deadpool. So Kevin Feige is deeply, deeply involved in this. There is some debate. I don't think there's much debate. The Deadpool 2's director, David Leitch, the door is open for him to return, but is very unlikely due to his schedule at this point. So I think
he's been taking on tons lately. He's blown up.
He's done very well. I mean, Deadpool 2 was I thought was very good. I mean, the first one is still my favorite of the two, but I still think it was a worthy sequel. But since also they point out he was not involved really at all with the hiring or the interviews for the writers, more than likely he is probably not going to be returning, which it doesn't seem to be creative differences. It's just like, hey, time didn't work out and I'm not going to hold you all back. But the big thing these sisters are known for, they are both some of the main writers of Bob's Burgers, the cartoon show on Fox at that point, which I believe they've been nominated a number of times for Emmys, and they've won one Emmy over the years. But still, I mean, it is I have not watched. I've only seen a few episodes of the show, but it is very funny. A lot of people swear by it, and that is awesome. They are, they actually posted. I think Wendy posted her reaction on Twitter, saying, this is with the caption "a dream," and
she'll deny it a few weeks later.
Oh, by retweeted, the latest tweet.
It's still a dream. It's still. I meant it was a dream. I mean, it's not real.
The other big thing, according to Krell's sources, that he tweeted out shortly after breaking this story, that Deadpool 3 is still expected to be R-rated, just like the previous two installments. So this is kind of interesting because I remember back when this Fox deal and Disney deal was going back down, Bob Iger was basically asked this question and say, we will continue in the business. And there's certainly a popularity in these films. He also hinted at the time that the films won't be released under the traditional Marvel or Disney banner. The company will make an effort to ensure that carefully branding R-rated films so we're not in any way confusing the consumer. But that was then.
Yeah,
things might change. Things can change. And so he definitely was right. And I think he was right to say that at the time, because we all agreed this just didn't fit with what the original branding or where the MCU was headed. But a lot of things have changed. COVID's happened. I'm very happy to see that after all this time of us saying that it's going to be the toughest one to bring in, they're probably going to neuter him a bit with PG-13, or possibility of it not happening. It's happening. And we're, according to his sources, we're going to get R-rated. I mean, I'm just happy we're getting this, number one. I think it's a great thing that Disney is not only giving this shot, but actually saying, we're going to let you keep the R rating, even though that has not been confirmed outside of his sources. But I will trust Deadline sources above, next to Hollywood Reporters as some of the strongest ones, that they're not going to put that out there, nor would he tweet that personally out there if he was not confident in his sources.
Yeah, so I'm the same boat as you, because when we started this for a while, I've been messaging you and being like, man, I'm just getting really worried about Deadpool, especially because we're getting a lot of, because we had that bunch of, obviously before this podcast started a year ago, of the Phase 4 news, right? And we had a bunch of it in there, no mention of Deadpool, zero. So that was like, okay, I wonder what's going on. And then I think it was Brian Reynolds gave some sort of quote that I hate, because it's lots of quotes that people give of like, yeah, like, I'm excited, dude, and I hope we get to it, and we're plugging away, but I don't know where it fits. And when it was something like that, I'm paraphrasing, but lots of times when people say that, it's kind of like what Rian Johnson said with the Star Wars trilogy, like, oh yeah, we're both busy and we'll get to it. And now it just seems like that's never happening, is it? It's just one of those things you say in the press, and then eventually you'll just go, oh yeah, we got too busy. So I worried that they were gonna at first just say, yeah, we love Deadpool, we got tons of plans, and then just kind of let it slide away, and then both just go, oh, we got busy and we never could do it. Because the other thing is, and obviously we'll talk about this, but I was always wondering, because I feel like Feige and the whole team, they want to put their stamp on the X-Men, right? They want to find a way to bring that in, and bringing that, everybody feels this way, bringing that in the MCU is very crucial on how they do that. Deadpool was always the problem, because it's like, I would imagine the team would never envision like that's how we're going to start the X-Men, right? We're going to bring in Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. I know he's
going to be the intro.
Well, exactly. Right? I know you could change some things. He doesn't have to even be a mute. Like, he could be a mute, but they don't even have to talk about, he could just be some assassin that's a wisecracker. But still, it has that connotation of, oh, the X-Men are here. This is the first Fox property really to come over. So that's where I was like, okay, I don't think this fits. But now it kind of sounds like this is more in the Deadpool range of the universe, as far as it's a sequel to that universe. Now that opens up a whole nother can of worms, because it's like, is it going to be like early CW, like Smallville stuff, where it's like, we don't want to use Colossus this time because we have plans for him? Is it going to be like that? I don't know. But one thing I do like, and I've been saying this if you listen to me on Geek First for years, is I always thought with Deadpool, the best route that I think eventually you could put him in the MCU. All that takes is one end credit scene. He goes through a portal and he's in the MCU. It's easy with Deadpool. He's easy with 2 lines to say something, and then oh, this makes sense because he's breaking the fourth wall. I think what they can do and what they will do is, instead of bringing Deadpool to the MCU, is bring the MCU to the Deadpool. So what I would say is, you could do Deadpool 3 regular, whatnot, but if you want an MCU characters or jokes, you maybe bring them over. I think you could have Tom Holland appear in a Deadpool movie for a cameo before you have Deadpool appear in a Spider-Man movie, if you kind of get what I'm saying, because it's kind of like, okay, it's rated R, people aren't seeing it like kids, but we brought in this to make a joke, and it's just kind of this secluded incident. So that's what I could see happening, that they could make jokes or refer to things that happen in the MCU, but the MCU could just ignore it until the time is right. But how are you feeling about it sounding more like Deadpool 3 non MCU for now, like as far as what I think read as, like, to me, him saying like all the articles that said Deadpool 3, obviously that could change, but just like, it's not like with the Predator, this Predator news came out, it was like, oh, they're making a fifth film. It wasn't Predator 5, it's, oh, the fifth film in the series.
Must get the chopper.
Yeah, this is sounding like this is Deadpool 3, so I'm not sure. How do you feel about that, as far as like, same thing, like, characters could they use? Is that going to be an issue? What do they do?
Well, I mean, an idea that you could bring him into the MCU is, that whole end credit sequence where he's going back and forth through time at that point. If Wanda's going to, and again, this is a very far-fledged idea. I don't think they're going to go this way. If Wanda's going to break open the multiverse really at that point, somehow Deadpool ends up sneaking in to the Sanctum Sanctorum and causing chaos due to his chaos he's causing at that point. It would be interesting to see that kind of banter back and forth between him and Cumberbatch. Heck, maybe even, making fun of some of the roles Cumberbatch has had in the past at that point. But you could have that happen and maybe bring that in. I think it's interesting that would be really just a good happenstance of things happening, how that movie ended with him kind of going back and forth through time and using that as a way to introduce him into it. And that was kind of like not part of my fact or fictions. I just figured it kind of warranted and is kind of low hanging fruit for this one. Do we think that Deadpool is going to come into the MCU? Is Deadpool 3 coming in with his intro?
So what?
Again, Feige's directly involved in this, so.
There's so many things I want to spin off. That's how me and Chris said, like, this first topic's going to be long. So I'll shelve the Feige thing, because I got a separate question for the Feige thing. So let's shelve that. So for MCU, it's tough because you could do Deadpool 3 and like literally the whole movie. I know this sounds weird, but the whole movie could be a joke that like his universe is ending. It's literally ending and he has to get to the MCU to survive. Like, I think that would be so much fun if he could, and that would make a way to explain why he's missing all his characters, stuff like that, make him even more tragic. I think but then do you also use this as, we are going to do one last shebang? Are we going to do one last full radar Deadpool and kick him to the MCU, and then he will be a supporting PG-13 character who, when he swears, he's blanked and he has a problem with it, and he's like, oh, I get one F-bomb, and he goes to say it. I've always pictured an Avengers movie ending the same way, of saying, oh, I got an F-bomb, here I go, I'm going to use it, and he goes to use it, and just like Chris Evans in Age of Ultron, how it cuts off before Assemble, that could do it to Deadpool. And even an end credit scene, he could be like, what the hell? Like, so I think there's tons of ways, but the question is, will he? I think they go the route of it's more secluded on its own with some jokes, but I think the ending or end credit scene will allude to he could potentially be coming there. I think you're right, where he could be having us go through this thing. He could go through and have a scene with Benedict Cumberbatch, but maybe then he just gets kicked right back to his universe. Like, maybe he's always like the CW, how Supergirl was for a while. Well, she could come over, but she was always on her own Earth for a little bit. That could be Deadpool for a bit, right? He could come over to the MCU, play around for a bit, and then he gets kicked back because he has to, they want to have a baby last one, right? Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe like there's a reason that he could go back and forth. So I think they'll do the safe route, and the first movie, or this third movie, will be primarily still his solo ventures, but there will be a door either open or he will go through that door. And I don't think it will be, okay, we start Deadpool 3 and the first 5 minutes he's in the MCU. It could be, I'd be shocked, but it's just tough because I feel like they want to still test the waters, because this is the first time, we had talked about this, right, with animation and what ifs and stuff, that they're just starting to put their toes in the water of doing stuff that's not directly connect to the MCU. It is, but something that could be adjacent to it, like multiverse, Elseworld, stuff like that. Like if these Toby and Andrew rumors are true, that is another, okay, they are experimenting. They are showing they're going to play with all the Marvel. This reminds me very similar to when DC did Joker. The differences with Joker is, yes, he was a popular character, but they didn't know if it was going to work and be successful. Luckily, it was a small budget, but people say, oh, it's the Joker. Warner Brothers knew. Todd Phillips and that team only got half the budget from Warner Brothers. That's how much successful they thought it was. Warner Brothers, like, yeah, we'll give you half, but we're not giving you the rest. So they still, even them, they still thought, this is a risk. That went on to be $1 billion movies. Deadpool and Deadpool 2 are both over 800 million, something like that. So this is a proven commodity. It'll work. And I also think in the times of COVID, they're going to rely a lot on IP, every company, as we've seen so much stuff announced. So I think this is to test the waters. You'll do more Deadpool 3, sprinkling some MCU, but I don't think it's full MCU. Are you on the other side of that, or do you think it is kind of like a mix of maybe a little bit? Where are you on that?
I think, unlike DC, when they've gone on record as a fandom saying, some things are going to be canon, other things are not at that point, with Marvel, we know that a multiverse is going to exist, but they haven't really gone on any sort of record of saying what's canon, what's not canon, outside of what if. But we know that's not necessarily, it's just taking the stories we know from the cinematic universe and changing it. But so I don't know right now. Marvel's big thing is everything's canon, for the most part. So the fact that Feige, yes, okay, Deadpool's now owned by Disney at that point, he's going to be involved, yes, but the fact that this is his first kind of big project that has already been established that he is going to be directly involved in, and
which wasn't his to start with, right?
Wasn't his to start with, but he, that he's happy to work with Ryan Reynolds, that he has signed off on the choice of the writers. Like he is going to, as I've said about Feige before, he gives freedom, but like with everything, saying he chooses the people, he'll select who he wants at that point, give them some freedom. It said, remember, there are certain beats we're going to allow you to do and certain beats are not. That's fine. I don't know why people get bent out of shape saying, oh, Feige has, I don't think he, again, how many of these movies have been based on stories that's not, and they take elements of it instead of going page to screen. So, I mean, they do give freedom to do that at that point. But again, like you said, they've got to protect an IP. So there's some things I as a fan saying, I get that it's not going to be exactly, but the fact that Ryan Reynolds is willing to continue working and is still very excited about working with Disney and willing to play ball with them, that's a good thing. So I'm more on the side of there's a much stronger now possibility that Deadpool will be, if not this movie, but very quickly brought into the MCU.
Well, and that's the thing. There's two things. One, the Kevin Feige thing. We've talked about this before. I've made many examples and comparisons, but it's people so many times forget. Like Kevin Feige, like he's still the boss of many people. So it's like, please tell me the job when you've walked in. Like I'm gonna do whatever I want. All right, boss. And the boss goes, yes, sir. And they let you go do it. It's like, no, they usually still have, like, even in my job where it's like, I'm not like super high up, but it's like, I'm good in my position. So they still come and say, hey, can you do this, this, this? So we need this. I can't be like, you know what? I know you need that order on Tuesday, but I'd really like to send it Wednesday. And they go, no, like, this is for a hospital. This is for a surgery. We need this right now. Like
people are going to die.
Well, yeah. So it's just like, that's one thing I've never gone into. It's just, well, actually, I guess there's three, because Clay shot this out. This is where one place I wanted to get. My dream movie is him killing the Fox universe, the way he did Deadpool kills the Marvel universe in comic books.
Okay, yeah.
Imagine that, because imagine him going to Fantastic Four with Chris Evans and being like, this isn't right, and just popping him in the head. Like, just a great, like, there's so much stuff, and you could finally get that Hugh Jackman. I swear, again, I need Hugh Jackman in this movie. I don't need Wolverine, but I need Hugh Jackman.
I think this is the movie that is the biggest possibility for. Maybe what if we haven't gotten any confirmation that the whatever this call out, this casting thing that went out to him, what if it was this?
I was thinking
just
the same thing.
as just the idea saying, would you, here's the offer, it's a cameo, it's like we've got everything together. Because again, this thing got released, it didn't mean it just happened. This could have been 100%. In the books for a while. So they put it out there. We finally get it. It's no more than just finally getting these two on screen together, not like bringing in Wolverine origin sequence. We get pull on Hugh Jackman just to do, I'll take a cameo at this point just to have that moment.
Well, so what I've been pitching for a while is I would love him if he came as Wolverine. They have a fight, even just a cameo.
Mhm.
That'd be great. What I've been pitching for a while, and I think the route they will go if Hugh Jackman's really stern on I don't want to play Wolverine again. I think Hugh Jackman appearing as himself is the route to go. I think like
That's good
imagine
too. Yeah.
imagine Deadpool trying to convince him to come back to the role, and he's like, "No, I'm not doing." Like, I think you could have tons because each movie, if you've looked at Deadpool 1, Deadpool 2, they've made Wolverine jokes, but they've made a lot more Hugh Jackman jokes. They've made jokes about him being Australia.
Mhm.
They've made like when he is wearing the sexiest people's a man alive, like which congrats Michael B.
Yep.
Jordan,
Yep.
very worthy. But like there's been more shots at him than Wolverine. So I think it's just as fitting. I've said this to you probably many times. I don't know why no studio, we've seen so many combinations of actors. Why has there not just been a buddy cop 20-30 million dollar movie, Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds? What, and not even as Wolverine or Deadpool. It's just like they have this chemistry, they have this feud that people love. Like I don't even understand why they haven't done anything. So I really hope that happens before I die because I just want to see them have like a full on movie. They have such good chemistry. So I think it could be in play. I thought that same thing. I'm like, what is this offer about now? So, like you said, this is probably more weeks along. So I am more, this question isn't as powerful, but it is going to be interesting to see how Reynolds works in this situation. Because if, you believe word on the street and stuff like that, the reason Tim Miller didn't come back is because him and Ryan Reynolds did not get along and did not have the same vision for Deadpool 2. They've both in the public
Mhm.
said very different things of why there was a falling out. They've both been nice, but many supers have said it wasn't going good. And obviously, you're going to choose Ryan Reynolds side the star. That's how it kind of works in Hollywood for the most part. But he's also a producer. He put tons of stock for years trying to get this project going, right? So this is where it's going to be interesting. Of to me, this is a sign that hey, things are working. Feige's on it,
Mhm.
but it was always like, okay, Ryan Reynolds is going to come to a situation where you know what. At Fox, it was about you, the star, and as the producer, now it's not. It's like if this doesn't work, Feige and Disney would just move aside and go, you know what, we'll return to Deadpool in a few years if Ryan Reynolds gets on like our same page or we get a new actor, which would suck. But that's where it's going to be interesting to see how he could work because people want to talk about creative freedom. We haven't had it happen too much, but Scott Derrickson happened recently. We had Edgar Wright. So there this is the thing that I'm not predicting it's going to go down in flames. I think Ryan Reynolds is a guy that wants to make Deadpool work and he wants to get out there and he really wants to play this character again. I think he'll look at working with Feige and the MCU a challenge more than a turning point. But I think it's still I think it's going to happen, but I still wouldn't be surprised one day if we ever get a report of like, oh yeah, creative differences and we're showing it. I don't think it is. I think this is a good sign, but I'm just saying that
Mhm.
this is a big test because Ryan Reynolds had so much creative freedom before on these movies where he may still, but now it's still like he still has to report to somebody. I feel like Fox kind of like he would report to him, but they're like, that first one was great. Do whatever you want. This is still like, hey, Uncle Bob is asking me about like why you're making a joke about his wife in this movie. Like that's where it's like, yeah, but it's gonna play really well. It's like, I don't know if we want to film a sex scene with fake Bob Iger and Mickey Mouse. Like, can we do that? And Ryan was like, yeah, great. So it's gonna be interesting because there is still a little bit of you got to check with the boss. So I take this as a sign things are working well. I'm like you, I haven't seen much of Bob Burgers. I've liked enough of what I've seen, but not enough to say I really like it or anything like that. But Ryan Reynolds each time has been very vital in picking the writers with it. I'm surprised the original writers aren't coming back that did 1 and 2 because they did Zombieland. So that was kind of disappointing. They worked well, but again, maybe that's a sign of either being busy or maybe they didn't want to play in this play box, right? So I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, there's something to be said about that, and like you said, it could be a combo of different things. And uh, I'm more excited about just the potential of this, just because again, we didn't think that this was going to happen. And I know I'm not going to go into it. I know Rob Liefeld had nothing but amazing things and excitement to say, but
Oh yeah, he
but
deleted all his tweets that said this movie's never happening, blah blah blah, and
yeah, at
like
that
sorry you're
point,
not
oh,
getting a producer credits
I
or.
doubt he would ever delete any of his tweets because he'll just stand by his word on that one. I don't think he's that kind of person. But besides the point, we it's at a point where Disney could, as Marvel Studios, could put out. Let's just say, for instance, it may not be MCU connected, but with the potential bringing the character in, maybe not this movie, but like we are saying, maybe put that hint at the end that
Yeah,
he will be brought in.
a
This
gateway
is
to it.
that this is their potential to see. Yes, it's a proven commodity. Yes, it's been before, but now it's under. How can we make it better and say that hey, Marvel Studios under the Disney auspices can do a rated R superhero movie that works.
And that's a game changer if it happens. Because
Yeah.
this is the.
And I think that's what Feige sees is just like, what better way than we don't have to take a risk with something new that we've never done before, that takes something that has worked with an actor who is passionate, has lived and breathed this character, and let's capitalize on it. That way the risk is not as huge, and we've already got a built-in audience base for it. So I think this is a very good move by Feige to give this a shot.
Well, and I saw it already, and I understand why you see it. Of this news came out, Kroll tweeted out the radar thing, and many people go, well, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it released.
True.
And
I get that skepticism.
Yeah, I get that too, because people share that classic clip of last Comic-Con where Feige's like, it's gonna be PG-13 and you're gonna love it, and people share that's just like, I agree that we have to wait and see, but it is one of these things. As of right now, we have more info than we ever had, as far as Kroll saying, from what I'm hearing, the plans are for it to be radar. Now, that's where I said that could be a tipping point that maybe into it they go, well, how radar are we going to go? But if they do it, if they put out a radar Deadpool movie under the whatever Disney, Marvel, Fox, like 20th Century, I guess not Fox, they got rid of that, but the 20th Century studio, it takes the argument a lot away from people like, oh, they'll never do something like that. That's a big changer. And then so here's another follow-up question I just had now. So let's say you get this, right? And it's Deadpool and there's some MCU sprinkle. What does that mean for Blade? Because Blade, when that was announced, that was the other one where people are like, how are you going to do PG-13 Blade? I've always said you can do it. It's fine. I don't think you need the full-on violence, but many people felt like if you're going to have something rated R or close to it, it's going to be that. But that's the question of where does it fit? Because Doctor Strange, like I just made that joke, you're going to PG-13, you're going to love it, right? So it's like, I still feel like PG-13 will be the bar. There'll be exceptions to the rule, but they put this out and there's some kind of connection to the MCU and it still works and successful and they kind of get away with it, as far as no parents are writing angry emails or something like that, as far as why is Tom Holland in this movie, which there'll be a few out there, but like if they could pull it off, what does that say for these other kind of darker movies when we're getting into this? We're getting into maybe a Ghost Rider down the line. Also Disney Plus, so not
even that, Moon Knight. Moon Knight is not.
But it's. I agree. Whoa, there's a timer for something. I have no idea what it is. But even it's on Disney Plus. That's why I feel like they might not go the full. That one they got a
You're right. I was just saying, like I'm agreeing with you on your point. Just that this is a big test case to say how far you're right. They can push it. I don't think you have to go hard rated R, like gratuitous violence, things like that. Like you can do a good R-rated movie along these lines and still call it back, rein it in just a bit, but still keep the whole idea that's saying it's noticeable, but it's not like, okay, they just had one less F-bomb or just it wasn't as blood on the screen as what the last one was. I can live with that. That's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting. I'm just excited that now we hear this, we hear some talk, and we hear so. I'm trying to think, because we have lots of news, and we're gonna talk about some other news, but we have lots of news of upcoming films. I feel like obviously if the world was normal, we'd get some sort of gauge, but I feel like this is setting up for. I don't know if it'll be a Comic-Con, but I don't know if it'll even be a DC fandom-esque event, but there is a lot of news out there, but a lot of news that's not confirmed by Marvel. It's people that are tweeting stuff, but it's like, I feel like they have enough stuff going on right now that next summer they could justify doing another, oh, this is what's happening. But at the same time, they can't do that if these movies aren't out. That's what I was thinking about, like, oh, we can do it. But if, let's say, Black Widow's still not out, if all this, obviously we're going to talk about that later, but let's say for some reason they decide, we're still going to keep delaying things. If they keep delaying that slate of movies, we won't get to Deadpool or Black Panther or Guardians, right? Because it's just like, well, we can't release the shows. Like I said, I get excited about those, but it'll be interesting to see that if we can actually get Black Widow in May, then I feel like we're setting up for maybe some potential phase 5, or what are we in, phase 5 announcements? Because if they're moving forward on this, if we have some dates for next year, they're going to start filming, so they can not announce what they like, but if they're on set filming Deadpool 3, we're going to know. There's only so eventually they have to come out and say something, right? So that's where it's like that's this crappy thing that you, me, and Brent have talked about, which again sent him Mephisto pictures. It is this thing of it is this thing of you can shoot these movies all you want, but they're just going to sit there, collect dust if we can't release them. So it's the same thing. Do you announce, hey, in 2026 we have a movie coming out, but we're not going to get like we can't release it we don't know for sure if it's coming out then. So they're in an awkward situation with these movies. So I really hope, especially with Wonder Woman news, that we either get Black Widow sooner or it for sure hits that May day, which I know we're going to talk about later. But that's what's curious. Like, I feel like they're in an awkward position again. Same with Spider-Man 3. Like, it's filming right now, but they're still very like we knew who the villain was of Spider-Man 3 or 2 or whatever. What is it? Far From Home, before it started shooting. But this is no one's ever come out and said Jamie Foxx is the villain. Jamie Foxx said that deleted it, but no one's put out a press release or anything like that. So
we deleted it, then put something back out there.
Yeah, and then delete it again. So it's just like I don't know what they're in this weird stage where they're filming lots, they're doing stuff, but they're not saying anything. And I know they want this hype, but I don't know. Just say something. You know, I want to know. Just let me know.
I'm with Brent as like, we need to know a title. I'd like to know a title.
Well, remember, we're supposed to get that December teaser, right? So
we'll get a teaser, but it didn't say like what we're gonna get. But
true. So I think Katie, when she was on, she made a good call of like that could be where you get the title. I think that's a good, and I love her idea of it being a Jonah pitch of like it's like some of his footage and whatnot. So I think we will know the title before the end of the year, I would imagine. But
I would hope. Hope. But that investors call in 2 weeks. So,
yeah, hopefully some big stuff.
But want to take us to our first ad break before we head into the next main topic?
Yeah, so as always, this is an ad-supported network. So what this is support the channel. It grows the channel, builds it. So as you see new shows and stuff like that, it keeps the machine running. It keeps the plasma pumping through the blood veins. I have no idea. I just don't want to say
web fluid and the web shooters.
Web fluid and the web shooters, which still sounds dirty to me. So that's why I avoid saying it. I'm not going to say keeps the, it powers the Infinity Gauntlet. But what it does, it helps us all out keep doing these shows. So as always, it depends on your podcatchers. They sometimes be loud, so always say just turn down your audio, listen to these ads to support the network. And if you don't want to listen to them, there's a great ad-free Patreon with a bunch of exclusive stuff there. But we'll be back in just a moment, and then we're going to talk about if you thought that topic was it was lost to talk about, this next one has it too. So we'll be right back. We're back. I don't know why my alarm went off early. I don't have anything timed. I usually don't have alarms set for 5:46 and there's another timer. What's going on? It's turned off.
Did you update your phone and didn't
maybe, but
now I want to point this out, saying you've chosen some interesting lighting behind you. Got the red lighting. I expect fog behind you. Are you sure you're not Mephisto at this point?
I know Brent sometimes watches YouTube, but I'm subliminally setting that message. But it is before Brent gets worked up. It is more just for the Marvel. I tried Amando's blue when we're doing After 9. It's pink. When it's Geekverse, it's green. So I'm working on getting another set of lights, and I like it. It's some nice mood setting,
Mood lighting at the Snell household.
yeah. No one touched the lights.
Oh my goodness, he's all bright now.
There we go.
So our next main topic, another drop on Friday. We haven't had like major drops in this for a couple of weeks, and so when we get two basically in the same day, that was more than we could ask for. And then we got more news today.
It's almost like, because now the election, they had all this news saved, but it's like backloaded now. Like they're just dropping it all, like, because sometimes Boris does drop stuff on a Friday, and we joke that he hasn't had a big one in a while. Usually Fridays notoriously aren't that big because people used to not drop scoops there because it was before the weekend and traction. But now Friday's becoming like an event day. But I do feel like lots of this is, I could have ran this during the election, but you know what? No one's going to talk about this right now, so I'll save it. And that's why I feel like now we're getting just like DC had that forbid, and now we're getting just like boom, boom, boom. So, and hey, it's good because we last few weeks it's good shows, but a little lighter content. But this one,
this one you and I had when we're going to be talking about Black Panther. Hollywood Reporter had a big story about Black Panther sequel shooting to begin in July. It's an exclusive for them. But you and I, when Chadwick Boseman had passed away, we said we were not going to be bringing up anything Black Panther rumors or anyone otherwise until a kind of major trade had brought it up with reliable sources, and so that day has come, and we're gonna talk about it at that point. But it's interesting that, and we'll talk about it, is this too soon or whatever. But multiple sources have told the Hollywood Reporter that Marvel is now readying Black Panther 2 to shoot, that will start in Atlanta in July and last for upwards of up to 6 months. Another part of this is Mexican actor Tenoch Huerta, who was one of the stars of Narcos Mexico, excellent series, is in talks to play one of the antagonists, sources tell THR. Along with his work in for Narcos Mexico, Huerta also played important roles in Here on Earth and Son of Monarchs. Along this, he is easily this is the most high profile role to date.
Yeah, a sequel to one of the biggest movies of all time. That's definitely your highest. That's probably his highest profile he's gonna have in his career, maybe, because Black Panther is such a huge movie.
Exactly, and I want to come back to this thing they called antagonist, not villain, antagonist. Yeah. So it's a choice word on that one.
So, but you want to go or you want to go or?
Well, there's a little bit more, but I can kind of hold off. You want me to finish it off, and then we can kind of take each point?
Yeah, finish it off. Okay. I will say before you finish it off is just go back a few weeks ago, like when Chadwick did pass away, we did do a really great episode with Greg. That was one where I got to talk to our ad support and we got to turn off ads, everything like that. It was good. So everybody check that out, because that's, if you want us kind of our full thoughts as far as his career and Black Panther, we did like almost an hour and a half, and it was a somber day and it was a cathartic day, but it was nice to sit back and talk about everything. So I'd say if you're a new listener, definitely check that out, because we had a good time as possible just reflecting on what a career this man had. And again, just to show that he still has a movie coming out that's getting massive praise right now, his performance, which is I'm very excited to see in Netflix in December. So check that out.
Definitely.
So, and Fanboy Clad will address your villain pick in a second, because he thinks who the guy is. So yeah.
I have my idea too, but Latita Wright, Lupita, I'm only gonna get this wrong.
Lupita
Nyong'o, yep. Winston Duke, and Angela Bassett are expected to return for the new film, with some saying Wright's character of Shuri may take on a more prominent role. Marvel has made no comment on the story, has not revealed any plans on how it plans to proceed without Chadwick Boseman, although it has indicated that it will not use CGI to include the late actor in the film. While Black Panther is receiving all this attention, it is still part of Disney's plan moving forward that Disney Plus series are the heavy focus right now. And they wanted to put that in there because, and I think but I think the interesting follow-up is the reason it's the focus now is because it doesn't. It's just starting. The movies are a well-oiled machine. Basically, that was the thing. Like the movies continue. Yeah. They don't need as much moving along. They've established that they know what they're doing. The focus for Marvel Studios is getting their Disney Plus set up at that point. So, a lot to break through at this point. My initial thought is, I'm glad to hear we're moving forward. Those people, a lot of ones saying it's too soon. My feeling is Ryan Coogler, the cast, Marvel Studios felt that they were not ready to move forward. They wouldn't move forward. I think they had enough respect for Chadwick at that point if they needed to delay a little bit, but I think that they are ready to move on. Are they going to be able to tell the same story anymore? My guess is no. And I think that they have taken this time to kind of get it reestablished. And again, they're not shooting until July. So there are continuing probably rewrites that are going on to kind of figure out where we're heading to at that point. But we all knew this day was going to come, that this movie was going to be moving forward. And I think, what has it been? 2 months? 2 months at that point?
I think so, roughly. Maybe two, something like that. But
so I'm not saying, it is not. I think the cast, especially Coogler, they are very respectful to the memory of Chadwick Boseman, that you did not see any news coming out of anything revolving Black Panther outside of the rumors. And that is it. This seems to be more strong at that point, that they've seen something, they've heard something, that they are moving forward now. So, it's, again, we both have said how much we love this franchise, where this franchise is going to go. It's unfortunate what happened, but we all knew that Black Panther 2 was going to happen.
Yeah, it's tough because when we did that episode, we did say, like Chris said up top, that we're not going to talk about it until we got some news to actually talk about. Because at that point, it's just speculation. It's still a little bit what we're doing now, but some time has passed, and obviously things are moving forward. I thought we'd have more time because I'm of many minds of what to think about this because so this is where I'll start off right the bat. I can say for me personally, it's too soon. And that's just the selfish answer. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that people brought up great points as far as you need this franchise to carry on for the Black community, for people to look up to it. I completely understand that. That's why I'm not saying it's too soon. They're making a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I have no, if you're saying that chair of Kevin Feige, you're kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because there is that
Mm-hmm.
case if you can wait and, of course he's not coming back, but you can still wait and let that just feeling sink in a bit until it's a bit more fine, and then you can move forward, or you can keep doing it in honor of the legacy. That's also tough too, because I hate when fans do this. Some people that know him personally can say this, but I hate when fans kind of go like, well, this is what Chadwick would have wanted. For me, I'm usually like, unless you were married to the man, we can't say what the guy would have wanted. And I don't
True.
think, listen, the way Chadwick was, I don't think he would have said, you never make a Black Panther without me. But I'm just saying, like, he would have want, like people saying he would have wanted, sure, he would want someone recast. Like, we have no idea. So I hate when people throw that out. I don't want anyone other than like his closest friends and wife saying that, because like I have no idea what the man's life was. He just seemed like a great guy and did a lot of great things and was a great actor. So
Mm-hmm.
it's tough. Like for me, that's why I just say for me, selfishly, already hearing this, I will, when that movie comes, be excited. But it is, when I hear this, I go, I don't want to say don't want that, but I'm still like checked out. I'm still like, okay, I
Yeah.
guess we're doing this, but it's just like, I think, because for me, I guess the issue is, so if I understand we're going to maybe be filming in summer of July 2021. Like you said, that's a long ways away. We're not even there yet. So that's going to be like almost 8 to 9 months away before we're actually filming, right? But the thing is, 3 to 2 months before that, they're going to be doing pre-production. They're going to be scouting. They're going to be doing vis effects, stuff like that. But what threw me off was that, oh, they don't know what they're doing with the character, things like that. But then they have this actor pegged as the villain. And I just went, I just, I agree with you that I don't think they would do, I don't think it is the machine of them rushing it forward, but it does feel a little strange. As like, it's been only 2 months. And for me, if he was writing that script, right? That script was written. And if you believe everybody, which they've said, Chadwick did not have any of them know that he was sick before he passed until very
Mm-hmm.
close to when it happened. So it wasn't like I have script A, I have script B. The two comparisons I throw out are Dark Knight Rises and Rise of Skywalker. Heath Ledger passed away. Rises completely changed. Bane, no one, and that's the thing. No one has never said this, but he's never not said that plans changed. He just said that, he didn't know what he was doing for the third one. To me, that took as he had an idea was still Heath Ledger, and he had to rearrange. And that's why I feel like
Yeah.
that lots of the Ra's al Ghul stuff is just stuffed in that movie like an overstuffed turkey of like, well, here's Talia, and here's, so there's that, and same with Rise of Skywalker. So that's where it's like these situations of what do we do? It wasn't, hey, we know he's sick, have a version or have something ready just in case of mine. And maybe he just takes the story and supplants Shuri, but I don't think you can do that because Shuri and T'Challa, yes, close characters, they're still very different characters. So
Yeah.
that to me was just the worry. If I understand why they're doing this, everything, but it was strange to hear, oh, there's already tapping a villain. I go, okay, it's only been 2 months, and it's just, are they working that fast? Are they, and maybe some people
Well,
do that, but it's just, I was caught off guard. And again, it's just hard. I selfishly can't get excited yet for it, so that's why
no,
even hearing it 2 months later, I'm still like, this is too soon for me. Too much too soon.
I was more expecting no news to come out until early next year. That was my
I agree.
expectation. Like the rest, that's so I agree. I was
The
more,
minimum, the minimum to
yeah.
me.
So I was more surprised at that point that the story got out with this information. In regards to what you said about an antagonist slash villain already being cast or have an idea of what this is, this may be something that they had already planned and decided that they could still salvage this idea at
Yeah,
that
true.
point. And so again, like we said, just because we get this news now doesn't mean that this has not already been in the works for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but like I said, well, I again was not expecting any kind of news Black Panther until sometime next year. Like we said, the earliest early next year, but they've made a call. Whoever made that call saying we're moving forward at that point, again, I yes, Disney, Marvel are big corporations. Yes, they are when they're focused on the shareholders and bring it, but I think I have enough respect for not only the cast and crew of Black Panther, I have enough respect for to show that Feige has proven himself to be someone that's not going to force something if it's going to get, and you one could say it's selfish. Well, of course he's not going to do it because it'll be bad press. So be it,
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah, and I'm trying not to be
Oh,
people
I
that
don't think
just
you
always
are. Yeah.
paint them as a or evil corporation. I'm just saying, as far as like we do know they have a. I honestly, when you're talking about news, I honestly as well thought that this film would not be a Phase 5 film. I thought it would get punted the same way Guardians after James Gunn thing. That was, if you kind of look at the timeline, it looked like it was going to be a Phase 4 film. Things happened and then they moved it. I thought it was going to be the same thing. So I'm hoping it is for sure. I don't think Evil Corporation, but I hope it is more out of respect. We have ideas and we can do this. And I think that's what it is. I just don't want it to be, well, there was something very vital that happens in Black Panther in Phase 5, and, we want everyone to mourn, but eventually we still got to do it. I hope it was, this still seems right to do it and not just it's that date and it's planned next in production. We got to do it. And that's what I'm hoping is not the case. And as far as, because we haven't talked about this on cast, I think I'm kind of with it seems like the majority is you give to Shuri, and I think so. To me, the biggest question is what do you do, as far as that's where I think it's similar to Rise Skywalker's Joker. He's just in prison, he's in Arkham. That's it. I don't like in Dark Knight Rises how they don't even mention that character. I think that was a big flaw, not a big flaw, but just an annoyance of
Only
just
the
even
only the novelization of the
yeah,
movie dealt with that.
which I love, and I wish they put that in the movie. There's some, like, just a sidebar.
Mhm.
I love that Arkham is this abandoned jail or prison, but they left the Joker
with
in there.
with one inmate.
That's so twisted, and like it gives me goosebumps right now. Like, that's the Joker. That's so great. Imagine Heath Ledger's Joker just locked in this asylum for the rest of his life. And like every month they like send a little shipment of food, and that's what, like, I love that. And like, here's another thing. This is another sidebar, but like, someone after Dark Knight Rises made this great fan art of, in that scene where Bane's letting all of them out of the prison. He's letting them all out, and he looks down the hall and he sees Joker's eyes, and the lever that says like out or in, he just leaves it and he walks away, because even Bane knows, I can't let this fucking guy out. Like, and that's where I wish they had that, but that's where they're more in the Leia situation, right? Of Leia was a vital character in Rise of Skywalker. Chadwick's Black Panther is the most vital character. He really is. So that's where it's like they're even more tenfold kind of have a problem. So I think that they will I think they will go the Leia route of having that character pass on, or find a way to write him out, because I think you will see T'Challa again in Black Panther eventually down the line. But I think what the version is you do is you don't recast, because I personally don't want that. That's another thing I don't want. I don't. It's, people have many boats, because lots of people said that with Leia, right? Well, just recast her, because Carrie Fisher would want her work to be carried on. Again, I don't know what Carrie Fisher would have wanted. I just go by kind of what her family wants. But
I think it would have been too jarring, considering it was going to be the last film of the Skywalker saga, to have that recast.
I agree. And for me personally, I didn't want to see anyone in that role. And that's where the way I am right now. I don't want to see anyone in this role particularly. That's why I think in the future, that's where the multiverse is. You can have a different T'Challa that is from a different verse, played by a different actor, where we've heard rumors of Tom Cruise playing Iron Man. I don't think that's something you do in the next phase or two, but down the line, if you wanted to introduce a T'Challa-like character again, you could use a multiverse, and okay, that's why it's different. Having someone just come in as different T'Challa, I think, one, I don't want to see that, and two, it's not Don Cheadle replacing Terrence Howard. That is a lofty, lofty crown to wear if you are
Very
going
different
to,
situation.
yeah, if
Very
you're going to
different.
replace Chadwick, that's a job that I'm sure people would take on, but it's going to be tough. You're going to be judged right away for the rest of your time, because even myself, I judge Mark Ruffalo all the time, Edward Norton. That's a small degree. This is like taking on like the king's role. So it's something that I'm thinking that Shuri does get it. I think Letitia Wright is a phenomenal actress that can carry a film. They'll have many great actors around her. Ryan Coogler is the most essential, because he's, to me, one of the best directors out there currently. So I think they can make a good film. I do think it will suffer, though, like Rise of Skywalker and Dark Knight Rises, where I think no matter what, this film can't live up to the first one, because I feel like Coogler, for the most part, probably had a really solid idea in mind, and unless they do a full recast, that idea is probably not going to happen, right? I think this is going to be the best of the worst situation.
I think they have either way. I think it's more heavy on their shoulders now with the passing of Chadwick Boseman, versus trying to live up to what the first one was. But I think that this movie is more about, we're going to honor his legacy. whoever takes on the mantle of whoever our new Black Panthers, whether it be Shuri or someone else, again, all they said was she's having a prominent role. I can read between the lines too. It is not. It has been the worst kept rumor that Shuri will take over. There's comic history behind it. That's fine. They want to go that route. I'll fully support it. But again, this would be a very interesting story about whatever that role, Shuri or someone else taking over for T'Challa, who completely changed Wakanda at that point from going from that. How do you wrestle with the person who took Wakanda into the world, opened it up to the world to acknowledge its true existence, what it really is? How do you now reconcile? Did you agree with that? How are you going to reconcile that? Now you've got threats that you weren't personally ready thinking that you ever would have to handle because T'Challa was there. I think this is a much more, this is a very different movie, not the movie we thought we were going to get. I'm more fascinated by how are we going to address it. And I think it's going to be even more meaningful because, again, this movie is going to continue the story, not in the way they wanted, but it's going to be, everything is going to be like, we are going to honor this actor, this character, and continue on with the story.
Yeah. And I think so. Where are you as far as the in universe what they do with T'Challa? Because that's the tough thing, right? As far as like, do you just write it off as far as some situation where that character is gone, or do you have that character pass on? I personally think if you're gonna do Shuri, I think you do because they did that with Paul Walker, right? Fast Furious, where they wrote the character off. They gave him, sorry, spoilers for if you haven't seen Fast and Furious, that one. I don't know why you haven't yet. I guess you're waiting for the right moment, but they gave the character a child, and that was the reason as far as he couldn't be in the danger anymore. So that was a good reason for, okay, he has to go off and he has to be by himself. But they had many instances in that movie where they could have maybe had that character pass on. I think they will go the route of something happening to the character, and I think they will kind of mirror real life in a sense, not only for the audience, but almost for them to kind of have like a coping of it, and almost that because if you just say T'Challa got lost in a venture like Bruce Wayne and Batwoman, it's there, but it'll be this big hole. I feel like that's almost a way to honor him as far as to make this movie. They're gonna make it in his honor, but to really honor him is to kind of put that forward, that feeling of we have lost something, but we're trying to rebuild. And Clay said, I fully expect to recast if they attempt a trilogy. That's where it's tough because like this will, even if they get to Black Panther 3, it's a trilogy. But if Shuri's Black Panther, it's not necessarily a trilogy in my mind because it's just like it's clearly like the same Black Panther, like a stepping off point where I feel like this T'Challa is his own like almost separate. His trilogy almost feels like Civil War, Black Panther, and Infinity War. Like that almost feels like his trilogy, where hers would be something else, right? Like I know it's different, but it's just kind of it feels like it will be a trilogy. You're 100% right, but it won't be a trilogy in the common sense of it. We're completely shifting gears here to a different character as the lead.
Well, yeah, and again, this is a different way. I know what the mainstream audience thinks. They associate title with actor and character, actress and character. So I get that, but again, even as the movie opens at that point, the mantle of Black Panther is the story. Black Panther. It is not necessarily the character is what the idea of is. Again, I understand the mainstream doesn't think like that. They'll never think like that. I'm just that more, being my comic knowledge at that point, it can change. And I know, again, it's not taking away what Chadwick did with the role in the character. I'm just saying this is what this character can continue to be. But it presents an interesting problem of storytelling because remember, whoever assumes the mantle, we see them go back to, the Valley of the Kings. T'Challa's not going to be there. And so they have to figure out a way and a reason to explain why is he not in the Valley of the Kings if he is going to pass away at that point. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead of how they could do that. I just haven't. It's story way that they're gonna have to deal with if they are going to say he passed away.
I think how you get around that is she goes there, but we don't see that scene. We have her talk about that scene with someone like her mother.
I don't like that.
It's not as great, but it's just like what is So she gets there, and then if you don't have T'Challa, it's a weird story reason of it's kind of like the Kylo Ren Force thing of like, why isn't he a part of the Force? Doesn't make sense. So
Mhm.
you'd have to almost make some kind of bad reason of, oh, some he did something where he doesn't get to be there, which they're not going to do that. They're not going to have him have do some like, bastardly bad thing where it's like he wasn't accepted in this Hall of Kings. Then either he's missing or they go the route which I think they have shot down. I don't think they would. I don't. You'd have to do a CGI sort of
Yeah,
duplicate. You would, and that's where I think that she could have that somewhat of a moment and just. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but her mom talking about it and her just simply saying like he was there and that's it. Like something small to give a little like
yeah.
more talking about T'Challa, but in that scene in particular, I think you could have her. I know it's story script writing 101 of show don't tell, but sometimes in this situation you might have to tell. I'd rather her tell her mom what happened than
Mhm.
see CGI body double of actor we love.
True. And again, I like it. I don't like it just because it's just one of those things that it is a pivotal part of
Yeah.
the legend of the character of how they come into the part at that point. Um, this movie is going to have a lot looming over it with his death, and
Oh yeah.
it's in to honor it. So the idea of saying he's lost and he can't be found, that doesn't that leaves a big part hanging out. So my personal thing is they are going to write him off that he was killed or died of cancer or something like that. That he will be written out of this,
Yeah.
because it's not about we need to not acknowledge it. It's about we need to continue the story. It's already going to be looming large, and it's going to be a big focus probably of the first quarter, if not half the movie or the whole movie in some way, shape, or form. His loss, his idea of not being there anymore, is going to loom very large. So, but if you think that there's a possibility of him being still out there in this world, in this earth at this point, Earth 199999. I think I got enough nines there at that point. that that we need to kind of not, in my opinion, I don't think you can't do that. You
I
have to move on from that. But if you want to recast, that's fine too. It's gonna ruffle all even more feathers at that point. Which again, I'll be the first person to say it. Would I like it? No. If they want to do that, fine. I'm going to give it a chance.
yeah.
I owe it. I owe it as a fan, as a person, to say I'm going to trust the people to make the right decisions until they prove me otherwise.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why even when I was talking about the T'Challa Shuri scene, you're like, yeah, I'm not a fan. That's the thing where I imagine they're in a room where they're pitching a lot of ideas that they're not a fan of. But the unfortunate thing is that like they got to do it the best they have, and that's where this is the same thing as uh, I'm not a fan of them recasting, but it's again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If they do that, I'll go, okay, I will understand it and try and roll with it because this is like this all these ideas are not ideas they wanted to be pitching initially, right? These are not like this is a huge not I'm not even talking because the film just as having Chadwick not here, it's just like this is not how things were supposed to go. So it's just like no matter what, and that's where these films kind of always have asterisks to me. That's why I throw out Rises and Rise Skywalker, where it's just like this is a kind of plan B. No matter what it is, I trust the team to make a great plan B, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be, I think even when we see it, there'll be little things where you go, if they had T'Challa, if they had Black Panther, if they had Chadwick playing him, this wouldn't be the situation,
And
right? And that's where, if you, like you said, the other risk they have as far as if he's out there missing, people will say you're using that as a storyline. That's a little cheap. So I think that's
mhm.
another risk they have too.
And the best thing they're going to have to do, because that's going to be the number one question that's going to be asked to Coogler and anyone else that knew what the plan was, to not talk about it. They
Yeah.
don't give anything. They've got to basically lock it down, put all those stuff away. Don't even talk about it, because then that becomes, like we said, a Rise of Skywalker situation. The movie
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get shot, the movie we didn't get to see, the movie that was never shot. And I'm not using Snyder Cut as that because that's a totally different situation. Rise of Skywalker is a perfect example of what was done, never shot. We're never going to see.
Mm-hmm.
They have to lock that down because they have to let this movie stand on its own 2 feet without saying what could have been. We know what possibly could have been in our mind. That's
Yeah.
we're never going to get that back, and we at least have the time that we did have with Chadwick Boseman with the character at that point. But
and I'm sure they might talk about that one day too. They might say,
they
"Oh,
might when it's ready." But I think
like
the worst
down the line, they might say like, "Oh, this was kind of a plan, this and whatnot, and we're sad we couldn't do it." But yeah.
But yeah, I want to hear what getting back to
The
our
villain or
antagonist at
antagonist,
that point.
yes.
Yeah. I've seen Narcos Mexico. That's the only thing I've seen him in. He is outstanding at that point. So I like that he's getting it. My pick in looking at Black Panther history, and again, they called it antagonist instead of villain, is Namor.
He said that too, but this is my question. I feel like because I'm not the biggest Namor fan, isn't he more of Asian descent, Namor? And that's where I wonder if he is. I don't think they're gonna get the guy from Narcos to play him because clearly Hispanic Mexican descent, so unless like they're changing up a little. But I feel like, especially if you look at comic books, we're getting saying cheap, but the amount of Asian characters is quite little if you look at that. So that's where it's like,
no,
I that's what I thought too. But then I was like, well, if it is Namor, I don't know if it could be that. I know other people have thrown out the whole Doctor Doom thing, and Doctor Doom to me is a character that you could kind of mold to be whatever race. It doesn't really matter. Like he's a white, like, well, he's from a made up place, so it doesn't really matter what he is. Like you could be any, like it's when people talk about like aliens or some of the Starfire stupid stuff. It's like, when you're from a different planet, you can be whatever you want. You know why? Because it doesn't exist. This thing isn't real. Like Dr. Doom could come down and if they say, hey, he has 6 legs. Okay, that's what they do in Latveria. You know, it's
remember,
like
we have lots of orange people.
I know, and I agree,
Lots
Clay.
of lots.
Yeah. And Clay says, look at the amount of Latinx characters we need to represent too. I 100% agree, but I don't think you, and I think Clay, you'd agree, you don't want to get in that situation where you take another culture where they say, oh, we want to represent Latinos, so we're going to recast this Asian character. Because then you have this the Asian community going, well, what the hell? Like that's one of our, especially being Namor, being one of the main guys. He's more like not lower tier, but he's not as popular as wrestling right now. But like he could be down the line.
The other thing we have, and again, this was just me not saying, oh, I think he'd be a spitting. He's got to be Namor. I'm not saying that. I'm just looking at like who are the possible. Black Panther has a number of villains, but we just wiped one out. We wiped out Claw. That's a big villain we just wiped out. We wiped out Killmonger at this point. Again, not saying that we can't bring him back, but right now we took out in one movie 2 of his biggest villains at that point. So Black Panther is not necessarily known for having a lot of big tier villains. In fact, M'Baku is also considered a villain in the comics. He's not right now. I'm not saying he couldn't be. But again, we don't have that many to choose from. And in looking at the history of Black Panther, this was the only one that stood out to me. But again, it's not a strong choice for me to say at that point. I'm just saying based on his look, based on what he could be.
Yeah,
I agree. Yes, Namor does appear to have more Asian Pacific features at that point. But also with Namor, he is a mutant. In comic lore, he is one of the first mutants that we get introduced in comics. So that's another interesting point.
Well, that's what Clay said. He says he's the first, in quotations, mutants. He's pretty big. This is the thing, Clay, and I always say this to people. You got to get out of the comic bubble because he's big to like us. But if I go to my mom and say, who's Namor? She's going to look at me in the face like I'm talking a different language. Like, that's what I mean as far as... Yeah, as far as here's a superhero in the mainstream, I think when they announced Namor, even though we want to play this card that always DC Marvel copying, who came first, it was Namor. But the second he comes to the big screen, oh, that's an Aquaman ripoff. I've seen this in before. DC, that's not Jason Momoa. And that's the thing where it's like, he is not a character like you announce Wolverine, people are in. You announce Fantastic Four, I think because they had those crappy movies, people are a little more reluctant, but people know Namor, I feel like in the mainstream, he's a little lower right now. Like I feel like he's almost where Iron Man was when Iron Man happened in 2008, in my opinion, where he is that tier right now in this generation. So I think he's big for the Marvel universe and us as fans. But as far as a film, I think it's one of those, if you announce Namor, it's going to be like a Guardians, like a Eternals, where, okay, you're going to have to sell some people. Aquaman helps, but it also hurts it at the same time. So I think he's big, but I think he's more big for us. Even Doctor Doom to extent, I think because he's been damaged so much by those other films, like he's not as big unless you throw, I think I've always said, I do think they'll do a big actor on Doctor Doom. That's who's playing that. Okay. But I it's interesting because people have speculated Doom and Namor, like you said. It could be, look at Coogler. He wanted to use Kraven the Hunter in the first film. It could be someone we're not even expecting that's not even from Black Panther. This guy could be playing Kraven. I know Kraven's Russian, but it's like
there
he could
is
easily
there is a history at that point with him. At that point, it's just, or he could just be, again, I keep on holding on to this of an antagonist at this point. It could not be one of the big tiers. Could not be a villain. He could be someone who is pulling the strings behind who our main villain's going to be.
He could easily be who Robert Redford was. He could be some agent who's like causing troubles, you know, like that's like when we hear antagonists, we always go, oh, who is this guy? But it's like, it could be like you said in Black Panther 2, they had multiple antagonists, right? So it could be a Claw level type of character where it's like he's in the film, he's an antagonist or a bad guy, but he's not the main guy. He's not playing the other one. And yeah, Clay says, yeah, but the fact that he's a Universal Studios property, I still think it will be big. I think Universal causes more problems than pros, in my opinion. If you look at stuff with Hulk and everything, you know, like I don't know how much that helps them, but I want to see Namor. I've always been more of an Aquaman guy, but I've never been like dying on the hill for either characters, you know, like honestly, like I will say probably Jason Momoa is my favorite iteration of that character, but that's probably more because I like Jason Momoa a lot, you know, like it's hard not to like Jason Momoa. So it's just like with Namor, it's the same way with people joke, but like who's gonna get to that race first, like Nova or Green Lantern, you know, like yes, Green Lantern happened in a movie, but DCU hasn't done it and they're very similar. It's the same way. Look at Suicide Squad was established before Guardians, but look at when that was coming out. When that first picture came out, lots of people, even myself, went, they're trying to do their Guardians. And that's where you get that back and forth. So Namor, it will be interesting. And it's I like I said, I hope we get some official announcements on this stuff in the next I'll say 6 months. I'm not expecting in this year, but I do want some confirmations. I want some titles. I want some, you know, Deadpool has a date. Like they have this mystery Marvel October date in 2022. It's just like, just tell me what it is, you know, just
Squirrel Girl.
Rated R Squirrel Girl.
The film you never knew you wanted.
Yeah.
But buried in this, just before we move on to our next ad break, buried in this were some interesting tidbits for other stuff that's in production. It mentions in January, Taika Waititi's sequel, Thor Love and Thunder, is starting in its Australia shoot with a sprawling cast assembling for what one insider is likening it to an Avengers 5 feel, thanks to its ensemble. So that's a very big claim, because you and I have talked about how Captain Marvel 2 is more shaping up for that kind of feel. So we will have 2 movies. And I know that's going to the idea that we already have confirmed that Chris Pratt's down there. Rumors have said that Vin Diesel's down there probably for voice work at that point. You know, it's very tough to say I am Groot in so many different ways. So I'm glad he's down there to show his support. But
all
then
languages too. Remember, he always does
all languages. Exactly. The studio will also have Peyton Reed back in Ant-Man in the Ant-Man movie in 2021, and is ending the year with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 shooting with a returning James Gunn. So they are again pushing forward with these ideas and properties. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, it's exciting that, you know, James Gunn, like people don't believe him, but he's like, don't, Peacemaker has nothing to do with Guardian. Like I can film that and then I'll go do Guardians. Like, and this lines up with exactly what he's been saying for months. And it's funny that they say that with Thor 5, but I do wonder, I feel like we're gonna get, I don't think there'll be the tier of Civil War, but it feels like we're going to get a bunch of almost mini Avengers movies with this, Captain Marvel 2, and don't forget Doctor Strange, because we have Scarlet Witch in that. There's a chance Tom Hiddleston is in it. I'm not saying he is, but there's still a chance he's in it, and we don't know. Spider-Man could some way work away, something like that. So you could have these 3 almost like big event movies instead of having one massive event, and I think that's great because I think everyone's expecting the massive event. I think you wait. We've talked about before. I think that they're going to only do one Avengers film in this phase, or maybe like a one, like the Infinity War Endgame, as far as like a split, but like one story, just because I think they really don't want people to feel like, they're just doing another big adventure. Like they want you to really, like, in 7 years, be like, I'm ready for the team up. The same way that everybody was just dying. Like, I cannot wait to see the Guardians with Iron Man and stuff like that. Like they want you to feel that. If they do just do Avengers movie right off the gate, you kind of, that release happens. You go, okay, I've seen them already. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm happy everything's on track again. Let's see if we can release these movies, but I'm happy they're filming, and I hope they're filming all safely and everything.
Yep. So yeah, we gave you not just one, but 2 main topics, and the rest of the news. The first 2 definitely could have been main topics within themselves, but you know, as yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say one last thing. Clay said speculation, but if Namor, it could be one step closer to X-Men FF. 100%. I think that I think we're in that. We've talked about that before, me and Chris, as far as like we're not going to get like X-Men is happening in 2022, but I think we're going to get end credits or little teases. Like there's even been rumors, I'm not going to say where it is, but Falcon Winter Soldier, they visit a place that's from X-Men comic books. So it's something that's like, and it's nothing big. I'm not saying like they go to Charles Xavier's house. No, I'm
they
just
go
saying
to
like,
Genosha and there's all these mutants.
Yeah, they go to the Mojo verse. It's wicked. That's his first mission as Cap. There's some guy up there. He looks like he's almost like a weird psychedelic DJ, but no, it's just like they're going to a place where it's even like this is just a location, just some little factory, whatever in X-Men, but still like, okay, you're getting those tiny hints of they can pull from this now. And I think Namor will be another like, oh, we're getting closer till we get that end credit, like shing, whatever, or Deadpool just popping into Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and we're like, oh, we're really in the thick of things. But
how you doing, Sherlock?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's the same way as Civil War, right? That Spider-Man wasn't planned to be in there, but he was. They worked him in there. They've had some years that I don't think they're jumping full head into those things, but they're gonna. Feige's smart. Feige and the team is smart, I'll say, and they'll have little winks and be like, oh, same way we heard the name Stephen Strange all the way back in Winter Soldier, and it still was another 3 or so years before we saw him. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear so and so and Colonel William Stryker's on this project, and you're like, oh wait, what was that name? And you go, oh, we're getting closer.
You got to pay attention.
Yep. Read, kids.
Yep, exactly. So why don't you take us to our next ad break and we'll break down the rest of these news stories.
Yeah, so again, we're heading to the ad break, so we will be back in just a few moments. Check the volume, enjoy these ads, see if you get a pepperoni ad, a car ad, who knows what you get, but we hope you enjoy them.
Personal injury ad.
So you guys get the darnest things.
Wear a mask ad, because that's a thing now.
You guys need the can ads, some lighter ads, like I said, you want to hear about some like vegan pepperoni, but yeah, we're going to be throwing that right now, and then we will be back. So now we're back with much more less heavy and much more less important topics, but still some topics that would have been good.
Less important,
but like those are like game changers. These are like, there's some good stuff happening.
All right, we're gonna be talking about Vision's his private parts. No, we're not doing that.
That was almost the lead. I was getting ready. I was like, what is that thumbnail gonna be? But all I'll say about is I just feel like he maybe got a text from someone at Disney. He's like, knock that off. No more of that. I don't know if that was necessary.
He played the game like a lot of us would play. It's like, oh yeah, we'll talk about it. Yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah, it's like,
I'll acknowledge it. But seriously, yes, this was a last minute. This was from this next story broke probably about 4 or 5 hours ago from the Illuminati, Travis Snell's favorite place to go to for news.
Boys, I gotta tweet at them once. I gotta get the scoops.
Yes, exactly. They broke that She-Hulk casting 5 new supporting roles, including adversary for upcoming show. Their sources, and again, Illuminati has been breaking a lot of stuff from Moon Knight to Black Adam, to I forgot a third one at that point. I feel like some former presidential candidates.
Miss Marvel, they had some good stuff.
Yep, they did. Yep.
There, yeah. So they've been kind of all over, and now they're getting the Star Wars. So they just dropped. You can check out Star Wars Alliance. They talk about, but some like characters there. So they got some people.
Definitely.
They got some feelers out there.
But they brought up that they kind of break down what their sources of saying of who these parts are. First up are Jennifer Walters' parents in their 60s playing supporting roles. Also included is a strong supporting male co-worker role in their late 20s or 30s, sweet, earnest, handsome, in a John Krasinski sort of way, which is interesting.
But it won't be him, just the type.
Yeah, it won't be him. Yeah, leaning diverse but open to all ethnicities. Doesn't like, we're going to cast She-Hulk as an Allison Brie, but not Allison Brie. Walter's best friend, codenamed Susie, is also listing as a 30ish leaning Asian American, but definitely looking at a different, not necessarily white at that point. So and open to all races at that point. But it's interesting they called out leaning Asian American, and comedy chops are listed as essential, which a part of Murphy's Multiverse did break. It was kind of hidden in a lot of different stuff he was talking about, saying that She-Hulk is geared more towards a comedic angle for this show, which would fit. It's not, She-Hulk is not necessarily like all laugh out loud funny, but it's not necessarily takes itself too seriously in the main title. But lastly, this was the big one. the show is casting for a
They're
female
casting their cow. Oh, no.
is for a female villain in her 30s under the code name of Lucy, who is listed as a glamorous social media influencer, Kardashian-esque, not none of the Kardashians, please dear God no, with a dark side. She promises to be one of the biggest characters in the She-Hulk universe to be introduced, and she will be in 5 to 10 episodes. Well, that sounds like they're going to be pretty much either half the episodes or all the episodes at that point.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting. This sounds to me, and again, they put out some interesting ideas of it that a couple of guesses are the character of Ultima or Titania, two of the most notable She-Hulk villains from the comics. Ultima grew up in a cult by her father, honing her superhuman abilities before She-Hulk rescued her, and could be kind of a major personal connection between the two. Titania, I know. Why did you talk about it? Because you had an interesting point of view on Titania, saying that. See if this sounds familiar, Travis, at this point.
Yeah, so I'm bringing it up right now. So I read this and I was like, this can't really be, but I guess it is. So let me get this. So from the listing, blah blah blah. So Titania in the comics is noted as a scrawny, short-statured girl before she goes to Fantastic Four villain Doctor Doom for a shot at a new life. This certainly could be reworked for another way without series, blah blah blah. It could change or changes her fortunes and makes her name as a major social media personality. So there's some speculation, but the idea of down on luck, maybe kind of loserish character goes to big bad powerful villain to be reborn as someone powerful sure sounds like Wonder Woman 1984. So I feel like we're not going to go the cheater route.
Oh no,
like
Marvel's copying.
I'm never subscribed to that, but I think this is just a bad coincidence. Like it's just like
it's already the character's already been written. This is
I know
like,
it just sounds identical to that. I'm like, really?
Oh
so
yeah.
I think if they do that, it almost is like they said it could be changed a little bit. I said to you, Brent, I'm just like, it's just so funny, like the description of just like, oh, a person that has a dark side that uses their social media to cause problems with She-Hulk. And it's just like on paper, that just sounds so lame. Like it's just like this is that like who is your villain? Oh, it's someone on social media. Okay, well, we all have that. I have multiple villains in my life.
Fake news.
I have multiple villains in my life if it's just people with bad social media accounts. But I'm liking everything I hear about the show. I'm always baseline excited for MCU. I'm excited. We've heard about Mark Ruffalo being in this, but hopefully not too much. Like we've talked about overshadowing. I think with this, it is more. We've talked about this. This sounds so comedic, and not in a bad way. I'm saying, but it sounds way more comedic than. Not that I'm liking, but it's just like I have different flavors, and I usually lean on the bit more serious stuff. And that's one of my major problems with Doctor Strange, where I felt like they just lean on that humor a lot. So when they're saying John Krasinski type, and it sounds like they're going with these parents, that'll probably be like these kind of, fun, like lovable, like, oh, come over, have dinner. You're so big. Like I can see the clips and everything already. And I think I'll enjoy that. I'm not saying that, but I don't think it's going to be top tier. The stuff that makes me interested is more once we get to the law stuff of see how they do that. But I'm interested because, well, again, we don't know because she's denied it. But as far as I'm concerned, she is playing that Tatiana Maslany, and that gets me excited. So I'm still excited for the show, but none of the stuff made me running, especially the villain. I was like, okay, I feel like I know this show. This show almost does sound like it's going to be Jessica Jones level, where the problems are going to be very mid-level, very low-level crime. So that's fine with me. That's nothing wrong with that. But it's just like as far as my excitement, it's still more on the lower tier. But as I hear more stuff, I'm glad they're casting, and hey, it sounds all good to me. And I just hope that I enjoy it, but I also hope people that really enjoy She-Hulk can enjoy this, So it's they're getting ready.
Yeah, and again, like we're saying, they're putting this stuff on Disney Plus. They're building different kind of avenues. I remember in an interview with Feige talking about, I think he's calling out saying Captain America, this is our spy espionage kind of movie. Then you go to Guardians and you have your sci-fi kind of a little bit community, more like each one of them kind of has a niche or niche, however you want to call it, like a little area that that's their pocket at this point. So now they got to do that for Disney Plus. We got the continuation with Falcon Winter Soldier, definitely spy thriller kind of drama at that point. WandaVision's kind of airing. It's going to be very, very different at that point. I'm not sure, a little bit of comedy, but a little bit kind of dramedy at that point with it. And this one's leaning towards more on the comedic side. So I like it how we're getting a lot of different angles to see. I mean, Moon Knight going to be much more different suspense and thriller. More is my take, just based on what knowledge of the comic. Hawkeye, action adventure. It's gonna be, everyone's gonna have their own little theme that they're gonna have.
Like
So
the
I like that
movies,
they're
right?
diversifying.
Yeah, like the movie, like people always said, like Ant-Man's kind of like a heist film. Captain
Yep.
America: Winter Soldier is a political thriller. You have Infinity War, which is just like a kind of a disaster film to me, like in an honest way, but in a good way. But it's just like a man destroying Earth and everything like that. Spider-Man was the teen movie,
Wait a minute,
the
are you
coming of
talking about
age.
2020?
But yeah, it should have just been 20. They should just retell that in the future. Avengers 2020. Oh, okay, theirs is just as bad as ours, I guess. So.
Yep. So
Yeah.
again, we like hearing that news at that point, seeing some movement with it. So still, we only got her one denial, but we never got any kind of confirmation or anything. So as far as we're concerned, Miss Maslany, you are still our She-Hulk.
Yep.
Uh,
I'm believing it till I see a different actress on that set.
exactly. So Allison Brie.
Yeah.
All right. Our next one is Moon Knight. Why don't you take this one, Travis? Since Moon Knight's your a big character.
Yeah, I will open it right now. But we have, it was so funny when I saw that when it's just like we have a whole article about his cloak, but we have new characters.
I know,
But
yeah, it was just a bad title. I'm
yeah,
sorry, Luminardi. I would have definitely led with a different kind of. I would have just said character description. I wouldn't call out the colorful cloak because I immediately thought they're saying colorful cloak. Are we bringing the Technicolor Dreamcoat into
yeah,
to
and then
Moon Knight?
you got Cloak and Dagger too, and everything like that. It's just like okay, what are we going for? But new characters in the description: Mark Spector's colorful cloak. So let me roll down here. I
Not
don't
not
want you
not so
to.
much colorful once you finally hear the description.
No, not so much. New additions. Our sources have found 2 new castings and supporting roles. One is for a female lead in his 30s, described as Egyptian and strong. Quotations, no BS. I just love like if you're an actress or actress, you get that no BS. Like I know what you're playing, which is just so funny, no BS. But and the other is a British male lead in his early 50s or early 60s, late 50s in a strong supporting role, potentially open to Europeans, which we've heard similar roles, which is good. Like we've heard like tons of diverse casting. That's why some people think, oh, this could be Frenchie, this could be that. So it's
Yeah, again,
interesting.
he's calling out Frenchie again.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. So in addition, the character description Mark Spector lists him as donning a silver cloak, which would be a slight deviation from the classic all white from the comics. So
And I'm like, okay, I really don't care. It's still close.
I think if you look at pictures of Moon Knight, many times you could say that's a silver cloak. He's gray. He's not even a white character. He's like a grayish character, which gray can sometimes be close to silver. So I was like, sometimes it's just like I'm fine if you add that in the article, but it's like you didn't even need that. That's not even a scoop. That's just like a little thing. The only thing is, I think that could have been a bigger scoop, and that way they should have led with is I was wondering because I'm rereading the 2016 Moon Knight right now just because I'm on the hype train. And
FYI, an omnibus is coming about that next year.
I know that's a purchase for me. That one I'm in the midst of I talked to Chris about it, but I just pre-ordered I think is that the one that's coming? Because I pre-ordered. So this is Chris's fault. I'm going to, or my fiance has maybe for Christmas ordered me the Moon Knight Volume 1 on this. It's coming out in January. There's one of like some classic tales. I think I don't. Are they doing one of the 2016 run?
The cover I seen is is my assumption was the 2016. So
Ooh, so if it is, then I have 2 because this is a volume 1. So maybe they're doing 2. So then I have that, and then all new Wolverine. So I have a bunch coming. So I've seen all these. I don't even want to send a picture of my bookshelf because it's only like 3. It's only 3, but it's still like not anywhere near what you and Joe and Scott are doing. Because I was like, I have a bunch of single issues that are in storage, and I'm Mr. Digital. So that's what like, you know what? Now I'm gonna start. So I have 3 omnibuses now coming into 2021 thanks to Chris. So it's his fault, but yeah, I'm very excited for that. I love that they're starting to push this character, and I hope they go a certain way. Oh, what my point was with that 2016 run is that's where they introduced Mr. Knight, and that's the suited one, right? And I always wondered maybe they would go that route because we've talked about this MCU goes a bit more on the Ultimates route, which is a bit more current, aka the early 2000s, but in comic it's not so new. So that's what I thought. Well, maybe to discard that discount Batman to do a different look, they'll do the suited one. I could still see that down the line, but I thought maybe they'll lead with that. But I do want the cloak and hood,
oh yeah,
like everything first. I want the suit eventually, but I do want that look first. And Marvel does a great job at costuming. Yeah, we had Captain America and Avengers, but after that, he looked phenomenal. And if you look at the suits in Endgame, Iron Man suit, that's my favorite one. That's my favorite Cap one. they are just getting better and better. So I would love to see what they're going to do with Moon Knight. So I think that was the bigger confirmation. It's Cloak, and again the casting. There's going to be lots of characters in this, which does fit if they do the thriller vibe with Moon Knight, because if they also do split personalities, this is a guy that has 3 separate lives. So that means almost 3 sets of different characters and people he's around, you know?
Yeah, and I think there was some more news coming out the last couple of days saying that is going to be, they are going to be tackling the idea of mental health in this series, and it again that's kind of like has to do. If you somehow don't do that, it's just like that's the whole point of the character. That's like a big wrestling with the character of multiple personalities.
And that's where when people, and I gave them crap earlier, but like, I'll believe when I see a Deadpool. I'm just because I'm always so nervous. I'm like, I'm gonna believe it when I hear it out of Kevin Feige's mouth. I think they're doing it, but I just don't want to get I want to try and not get too excited, and I want them to cover that. But I want to see how it's done, because it's so funny. I just like rereading the 2016 Moon Knight, and even then he's like, yeah, I used to do that, but I was just kidding myself. So I have some problems, and I think that's what I want, because you could even start that way as him thinking he has this under control, these identities, but really he's not in the driver's seat, and that's where you
got a whole Tyler Durden situation going on.
100%. That's I think it's probably my like 4th favorite fictional character of all time. It's like Batman, Joker. You know what? I actually think he might be up there. There's some good ones, but I love Tyler Durden. But yeah, I love.
You're basically living his life the way you look right now, bud.
I am not lying, Chris. I'm ordering the Fight Club red leather jacket this year. That is my gift to I've always wanted it my entire life, and my gift to myself of working all these crazy hours. Like, I'm gonna buy this jacket that is not worth the price that maybe I'm paying, but it's like I want to wear it. I want to look like 2% like Brad Pitt, and that's what I'm doing. So 2021, one day I'll wear it on cast.
Hey, we all got to have our little things that don't make sense, except it just means something to us.
Exactly.
All right, so we go to a little game that right now can't and is still trying to bring back to relevance.
So mean.
Sorry, I'm just speaking the truth right now. Marvel's Avengers Kate Bishop DLC to release in early December. So we finally have a confirmation of the first major DLC for Marvel's Avengers post-launch. So Kate Bishop is the operation is entitled Taking Aim, is scheduled to release December 8th. Will feature our first new villain, which is the Super Adaptoid, a machine that combines the various abilities of the Avengers and seems to work as a mini raid. They highlighted that her final mission will be replayable at a higher difficulty. It also has a short tease that maybe of getting another match with the Kree Sentinel from the Reassemble campaign. It also talks about that she's going to get the abilities, she's trying to go back in time, go through time to find Clint where he is at. And this is where we get a huge confirmation that his storyline is going to be Future Imperfect at that point, where we got a great view of a very different Hulk, Maestro, and we're going to be dealing with that. So her abilities of teleporting, going back in time, setting up Clint's storyline for the next DLC. I'm intrigued. My problems are still with the game of being too grindy, make me want to come back at that point. I have stopped playing it for a very long time. It's just not drawing me in as much. But again, games can bring you back in after a failed launch. But I also think that this DLC should have come out, and I know why it didn't come out. It wasn't ready at that point, but this needed to come out within the first month. And now we're already seeing the game itself being discounted down to $39.99. I've even seen places down to $29.99. Not a good sign for what is supposed to was billed as a big AAA game.
Yeah, there's the hope that can always come back. This happens with games before, but it also does a reverse where they die. I think it'll be somewhere in the middle of, I think if this wasn't Avengers, it could probably be on the dying range, but I think they will support in that hope of we could eventually get there, get this content, get these characters. But I'm somebody, I still like the game. Like I've said, I enjoy it. I haven't played on my PS5 yet. I plan to I'll probably boot it up a little bit before she drops, just to get, affiliated again with the character, stuff like that. There's a few things I still haven't done, and I did like the caution. I like some of the grindiness, but now it's like when life takes over, there's other games. and like I go back and forth with Cyberpunk if I'm gonna buy it. I want to, but then when I see, oh, it's 175 hours, I don't know if that's something that I'm gonna have the time for. So it's like,
see, for me, I've now gotten to the point in my life where I will do an Assassin's Creed and a Cyberpunk, and those are probably going to be the main games for me for a very long time
yeah,
because those are, to your point, it's a very long focused game, takes a lot of time. I've really scaled back what I focus on video games are, and those are the games that I can get enough enjoyment on and save a lot of money doing other things.
100%. And that's why I think, again, this is good, people. If you don't know, it's gonna be free DLC. So I'm interested. I will boot it up. I'm very interested in her and
Yeah.
Hawkeye because I think her ranged characters will actually work very well in this type of game because I like the range attacks that like Black Widow has. So I'm excited. Is this gonna save it or get it? No, I think this will give it a little bump. People tune back in. I think what they need to do is they need to hit this, and then the next two big ones, and like we've talked about this before, is we don't know if it was delayed because of the Chadwick stuff, but the next
Oh, it
two up
definitely
the
was. They've gone on record that the Wakanda stuff has been delayed because
well,
of
I
that.
wonder the reveals though, but I'm wondering like, do you think that was ready to drop or not? Because that's the thing. If it was ready to drop, I feel like they could have now done it because I feel like the two that I think will be the big spikes and hopefully they can keep people again are Black Panther and Spider-Man. Obviously, Spider-Man it's tougher because it's only for one console, but still has a big player base for Black Panther and Spider-Man. I think those will be the more crucial ones. Kate Bishop is a good big character, but I think she's bouncing off the bad press in a sense, right? She's like having to save all this. So I'm excited to try her out. I'll be there to try it, and I hope it's good. And I always hope the game turns around because I like it enough that I want to see more down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I dislike the game right now just because of the many things we've talked about it, but I want it to do well. I want it to grow, and I love the character Kate Bishop, but it is not the character that's going to be drawing people back in outside of a passive. Oh, a new drop.
Yeah,
Not only that. So not only that, it dropped 2 months to a month and a half later than what it should have. We don't know when the next drop's going to happen, and if they have another like 2 or 3 months before we get Clint's drop, and then we still haven't seen Spider-Man, we still haven't seen Black Panther, we still haven't seen Captain Marvel at that point. They're going to have to drop this very quick succession to kind of keep the conversation going because, again, you have games like Cyberpunk, you have other things that are going to come out. The conversation is going to get lost. And I think they're not unaware of that. But I think that's the problem where this game faltered.
yeah.
And it's sad to see when we see the PC, we don't have the console games, but they lost, what was it? 86% of the player base on PC was basically is gone now from the metrics they're looking at.
Not great. Not great.
So again, we're not trying to not sell you on it, but again, I still think it is the story was good, the campaign was good, and if you can get it on a good deal on Black Friday, digitally or otherwise, there's some great deals on it right now. I will still sign off on it. It's still worth you playing through at that point to get you to enjoy the potential of what this game could possibly do.
Well, and especially now with it being cheaper and whatnot, it's just like, hey, $30, pick it up. Play even just the story. I think the story is worth $30 and having some fun. You'll get some free stuff. Clay says he stopped playing, but the game is pure multiplayer to drive excitement. Yeah, and that's what they have to try to do. They got to get that built up. And like we said, that's happened before. Destiny had struggles before, and it kind of come back. But then you've had things like Anthem that didn't. So it's games as a service is still toss up. It's still a hard thing to do because you got to have a constant flow of content that people enjoy.
Exactly. So, all right. Next story we're looking at is Loki. Loki casting hints at new version of Tom Hiddleston's hero. I like how they call it Hero, played by Richard E. Grant.
That's who he is now. Yeah, because he was a Disney Plus show. He's a hero.
He's a hero. We'll call him an anti-hero at this point. So from Murphy's Multiverse has reported via IMDb that Dave Cutler has been listed as a stunt double for Richard E. Grant in the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series Loki. Grant's character is also listed with Cutler as Classic Loki, further indicating the possibility of multiple Lokis, even potentially a council of Lokis, though through the course of the miniseries. Fans had no clue what to expect from the Loki miniseries. When it was announced at San Diego Comic-Con last summer, but it's going to be the nature of the character. we've seen reports that pointed to Sophia De Martino playing Lady Loki, including set photos of her in costume that could be very well associated with the character. And the news about Richard E. Grant fits right into this theory. So, yes, I want to see a council of Lokis. I want to see that banter between them all.
So I do, but there is a very fine line between it being a great and very fun scene to something very gimmicky, and they have to. I trust them. I think they will pull it off. I've always said this since I saw Endgame. I think MCU can pull off anything. That end battle is something that you told me, oh, we're gonna do this, do this. No chance. There's just so many moving wheels. It's too comic booky. No, they went full out. So I believe they can pull it off. It's just when I first hear that, I'm excited, but I just see Loki sitting down in a room surrounded by other Lokis. It's something that, like, if done wrong, I could see a lot of people checking out and being like, this is too cheesy, this is hammy. I don't know. The good thing is, I think the main showrunner is a writer from Rick and Morty, and I've not seen a bunch of Rick and Morty, but that's what I've heard as at least one thing, and from the few things I have seen, is they take that stuff that could be kind of, like I said, very over the top, very hammy, but they do it not in a ground way, but just in a way that it doesn't feel like that. It works for the joke. It works for the punchline.
Yes,
it doesn't.
It does.
Yeah. So that's why I have the faith. I think it will work. It's just when I saw that, I had the reverse of Council of Loki's. Oof, let's see them pull this one off, and I do think they will, and it's very exciting. I talked about this before. Richard Grant is a phenomenal actor, and I think that's going to be, if done right, which I think it will be, I think it's going to be tons of fun. And again, people talk about WandaVision being a really wacky show. This sounds like this is going to be just as crazy. Like, maybe not like we're creating babies and out of nowhere, but like, if you're in a room with multiple versions of yourself that have formed a council, that's some crazy stuff going on. So I love hearing all that.
Yeah, and again, it's I'll at least on the potential, I equate it to, the CW's Legend of Tomorrow, the time traveling in different time periods and things like that. So we'll see. But so that was news of that. We got a couple of quick hits with Miss Marvel. We got our first set photos, a number of set photos coming out of Miss Marvel in Atlanta. This is coming from the Twitter account via Just Jared. I think we've had some scenes seeing her bike around our main character, Iman Vellani. I think what was really cool was the Halloween costumes that she is full decked out as Captain America, Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
Captain.
They rewrite it. She's a huge Captain America fan.
Yes, so. Exactly. Captain Marvel, a la Endgame. But her friend, which we'll get to in a second, who the casting of that was Matt Lintz.
Matt Lintz from Walking Dead.
Yeah, Walking Dead at that point was just recently cast by these. We have to release that because we got photos of him. Looks to be possibly like dressed up as Bruce Banner at that point. He's got a lab coat and things like that. People have been assessing that. And also seeing her at the Islamic Institute of Atlanta. So again, we've talked about how big the Muslim faith is going to be portrayed and looked at in this show, and the struggle she has with it and her role. And the cool thing with, his character, Matt Lintz, being her kind of best friend / possible a little bit of a love interest as well, is he develops this what's called super snot, and it can be applied to clothing that helps stretch and create kind of like what her costume ends up being able to do to help her stretch ability, so that she's not like having the big joke of Bruce Banner. How do those pants stay on at that point?
And he has to go buy some stretchy pants off this market. It's like, come on now.
Yeah.
What are we dumb here?
So it's just cool seeing these set photos, seeing her and as the character. And again, she is so the spitting image of this as they did an amazing job casting. I can't wait to see kind of our first kind of live footage of her in the role.
Yeah, when I saw those Halloween photos, I was like, this is exactly what I want. I didn't have any doubt that they would, but it's just right away, it reminded me when we just recently, one of the good things about the Avenger game is they nailed Kamala Khan, and it had that thing of she's a fangirl, has their outfits, things like that, cosplaying, issues of comic sign. So right away, I'm like, okay, that's perfect. Halloween, it shows right away she's going to be a big fan. It's just, this show I'm looking very forward to. And again, it's just so funny that I feel like it went really quick from we don't know who Miss Marvel is to we're shooting, we're there. And that, like we've talked about before, right? These things happen weeks/months before we get the actual news. She was probably cast a while back and we just get the trickle down, but it's great seeing it. That means it's real, it's being in production. That means we're going to see it next year, and they're shooting now. So I'm not sure. I don't think they've put a date on it, but I could see, I don't know, because I know you threw out a good timeline there, and I think your kind of maybe timeline for Miss Marvel is maybe like sometime maybe in the summer or like late summer, because you were talking about like
I,
what
I
if.
I was thinking now that we've got, like we said, we've got WandaVision January. We still don't have a date on What If. We've got Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That's going to be probably around the time Black Widow drops, before or after that. Could be a summer, could be a fall kind of thing at this point. Because again,
Yeah.
a lot of these production have been basically leaving a huge 6-month production, and again, that's a lot of COVID related, when it usually would be probably half that at that
Mhm.
point. So
Yeah. For me, it's just that with my kind of predicting of the Disney Plus schedule, I just need to know about Falcon Winter Soldier, because I just want to know, are they eventually going to have to pull the trigger and just say, we got to find a way it's going to go before Black Widow, or if not, because we could live in some world where, like, it sounds crazy. I know people might think, no, that won't happen, but there's a chance that if, let's say, they keep delaying Black Widow, Miss Marvel could come before Falcon Winter Soldier. There's a chance if Falcon Winter Soldier is that tied to Black Widow, where they can't change it all, they can't find some way to make it work, and Black Widow, they just won't budge, and they said it has to be in theaters or something like that, which I know we're literally going to be talking about in a second here, but there. We don't know what that is. That slate, there is not a slate for Disney Plus. We have the slate, but we don't have a timed slate nowadays. So same thing, I guess, too. I would probably see What If, and then honestly, you could probably maybe even see Loki before that, because Loki is filming right now. But it's like, if it's in that WandaVision Doctor Strange family and WandaVision's already gone, to me that would assume I would assume that Loki's fine to go. So yeah, it's interesting. I hope December 10th is going to be interesting. I want to see if we hear a bit more of these new plans or new dates and maybe new
new kind of
potential.
map of where we're
Yeah.
heading to, at least in phase 4. No, I
Yeah.
agree. And so that kind of leads us to our second to last story, coming from Deadline. Black Widow, Disney reportedly deciding against streaming release for Scarlett Johansson film. Maybe. Uh, again, this was before, I believe this was before the Wonder Woman news
I think it
dropped.
was, yeah.
So again, this is before that had occurred. Deadline recently reported that Disney Studios is currently mulling over the idea of moving some theatrical releases like Pinocchio, Peter Pan, and Cruella to debut on Disney Plus. The report did say that the next MCU film, Black Widow, is not not being considered for a major change. Even though the news confirms that Black Widow will likely not be delivered to the fans for at least 6 more months, it does make clear how intent Marvel is giving the right to the experience of the MCU blockbuster to the film. So, again, before Wonder Woman news dropped, this now looking at what they are doing with Wonder Woman 84, it is a 30-day it is a month release on HBO Max for those of subscribers, and released in theaters for 30 days only. After the 30 days, it is pulled from HBO Max and then continuing release in theaters for eventual VOD later on. I said it on DC Alliance, I'm going to say it here. This changes the entire game. Disney is going to watch this very intently.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes well, they are going to eat their words on this one and they will make that change.
So one correction is, this was after
Oh,
they
was
announced that.
okay.
It was
Okay.
because it was really close. So I thought
Okay.
it was before as well. So because this dropped, because you guys dropped your bonus episode on the 18th and this came the 19th. So I'm
Okay.
sure they put that out for like because it was current. But
Yeah.
two things. One, if people don't know me from Geek First, I don't know why the hell we're making a Cruella de Vil movie. I don't understand what purpose do you want to make a movie about a character who the main character is she wants to kill and skin dogs? Why is this the main character of a Disney movie? I
We
don't
have to know what
understand it.
turned her that way. We have
No,
to
or
know.
they're gonna do Maleficent, where it's like she's misunderstood. She's not really bad. It's just such a stupid idea, and I hate that Emma Stone's team let her do that. Just dumb. So Cruella, fine, kick it to streaming. Yeah, I think this is all. I said this, I think, on our Patreon episode with Travis. I wish the investors call was after Wonder Woman, because I'd love to see, because they could get that call, and I think they might even mention
Oh, they're
and
gonna
talk
have
about
to.
it. they will, but at the end of the day, they can still be like, well, we're sticking to theatrical, but you never know what can happen. I would love to, even if it was sometime in January, because they'd kind of have a clear vision, and you would, I think, if they were to even hint at it, go, oh, they're gonna make a change, or they might say, no, we're sticking to it. Because right now they can say, yeah, we're sticking to it, but they said that about many movies and it didn't stick
Oh,
to it, right? And that
yeah,
thing where it's
but
just like, I think it could change, will change. Let's see how Wonder Woman does, because I agree with, I said on Patreon, I agree with what you said on Super Civil Servants. HBO they need to drop that free week trial. They cannot let that happen that week, because I just think that is just that. I know some people have said, oh, well, then they'll use it for Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's a whole different audience for Wonder Woman that has come for Justice. Like
yeah.
people, like, and even Nathan, who is a diehard Snyder fan, said like the general audience, I agree 100%, is like they're for Wonder Woman. If COVID times didn't happen and it's different because Justice League is like a 4-hour movie. But let's say some reason it was 2. If you were to release Wonder Woman and Justice League, Wonder Woman would have done better by far because it's a new movie and it's just a bit more. That movie is probably the most, I'd say, agreed upon between everybody for the DCU, as far as if even the most people that don't like tons of Snyder stuff go, yeah, but I love Wonder Woman. So I think that is the crux of how it does, and that's why I really hope they get rid of that free trial so they can really gauge and we can really see what the bump is. Because yeah, sure, you can get a bump for that week, but if they come and be like, yeah, we have this many million subscribers, but it's like, yeah, but what did you have the next week when the trial was gone? It's like,
Yeah.
can you, because WWE, I'm a big fan of, they do this all the time where they'll count these subscriptions, but lots of them are like the 30-day free trial. So it's like, yeah, sure, there's hundreds of thousands of people doing this, but they're not paying a dime. So it's like, yeah, it's a number, but you're not making any money off it. So that's where I'm interested. And I bet, like you said, everyone's watching this. Bond's watching this. Sony is, everything like that. Warner Brothers. It's just they're watching their own film to see what do we do in the future. Obviously, Snyder Cut is going to be on there already, but just for future stuff, for Dune, for the Suicide Squad. So it's an ever evolving game right now, and it's stressful to watch as a movie viewer.
Oh yeah, and again, if this is successful, people say, "Oh, Disney can play this game of if even if they see this being even if it's successful for Warner Brothers, 1984 or Wonder Woman 84, they're not going to come out at the end of January and say, "Yep, we're going to root it." No, they're going to hold off, and I'd say probably at the earliest March,
I
they would
agree with
make a
you.
call with March. And if they want to do the big kind of lead up to it, you market it in the sense of drop Falcon and the Winter Soldier before, lead it up to that. Again, do the same thing. Again, do a 30 days. That way, again, we are not having a vaccine released, wide release that everyone is vaccinated by summer. It's just, I'm sorry. It's just, I know enough about this kind of stuff and pay attention to what's going on. It is not going to be a wide release that we're going to be all crowded in the theaters this summer. Not happening. Sorry. I wish it was. I wish it's different.
Yeah, no
I say
way.
we're stuck in this sort of environment in some way, shape, or form for another year. Sorry to disappoint everyone. Please prove me wrong. I want to be proven wrong about this, but just not working like this, at least in my country. But I do not see them delaying Black Widow anymore. This is it. They have to get the slate started. This was their last. This was just like Wonder Woman came to the point, and I agree with the analysis that our friends over at DC Film Squadcast said, and even fans Without Borders said, like, Patty's statement was very interesting,
Yes.
and how it was said, she is. I don't think she's at all happy about this, but I think when it comes down to it, enough delays. Has got to get this out. We've got to move on. We've got to do something at this point, and we're going to cut our losses. We already accepted the fact that its Tenant was a dismal failure for what it tried to do, and we have to make another attempt to get this out. So I hope and please, I plead with people at that point. This is Subscribe to it, give it a chance. It's now up to Warner Media, AT&T to fix their whole market, their poor marketing of HBO Max, because you have to make people see why they should stick with you. There is a difference, and I said this in Super Civil Servants, that there's a difference between Disney Plus and HBO Max. Branding. People know Disney. They know what Disney has to offer. Your mainstream people do not know enough about HBO Max, what it has to offer at that point, and including its new series. They have talk, but you don't have enough people that say, "Oh my gosh," I mean, Lovecraft Country comes to mind, but again, I don't think 9 out of 10 people know what Lovecraft Country is.
No, and it doesn't help that you have three when they launched had three separate versions of HBO: the HBO app,
Yeah,
HBO Go, HBO Max. It's just they've
we're
had a
still
problem with
those
that stuff.
Roku families still don't have it yet.
Yeah, so it's kind of that thing where I think any direct or any company saying this, being like, "There's no plans for it." Yeah, there is no as of
It's the
November
right line to say.
24th.
Right
Yeah,
line to
yeah,
say.
and that's what you gotta say. And maybe there is as of November 24th. There is no plans, but you know what? November 26th, everything could change again. Something could happen, and like you know what? They have one more meeting. They go, "Let's just do this." We don't even know. You could have. I agree with Chris that I think the
December
reason
10th.
yes, that's what I was going to say. I agree with you that I think it will be next year, early spring, if we hear something, but they could literally just drop it on us. Big, you know, we did think about it and we've seen this move and talked about blah, and we're going to do it too, or something equivalent to that. And the reason I think it will be early spring is I agree with your assessment about the theaters, but I still think they are going to try to wait again to be like,
Oh yeah.
let's give it as long as possible before we really have to pull this trigger because you know once the genie's out of the bottle can't go back in as a Saul said in Pineapple Express or but like that's the thing where it's just like it, once they say it it's out. So the same thing Wonder Woman, they say it and they can't next week be like, oh, we're joking, it's just theatrical. No, they've done it and that's everyone holds them to it and that's what's happening. So that's why I think that's why they're smart to punch it all the way till May because they got lots of leeway to wait. I do agree with you that I don't think it will be delayed. I think it will have come at one. If it is delayed, that's just another kick to the stomach. And I agree with many people. It's the same way as far as Wonder Woman. You get less and less excited for these things, you know. So I think they do got to make some moves.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. So, all right, we've come to our last story. This also kind of came out with the last 2 days. Empire magazine, and it's and leading up to WandaVision, Kevin Feige talked to the magazine about kind of what he's seen with it and what it is and what his plans for it or what they think, but mainly focusing on Wanda as the character. Um, and he kind of talks about how Wanda's powers are as ill-defined and unexplored, and which he said are worth exploring post-Endgame. He says, if you look at the Infinity Saga, I don't think any single person has gone through more pain and trauma than Wanda Maximoff outside of Clint Barton. I will challenge him on that.
I agree. Yeah.
Yes, he got his family back at the end, but he went through a lot in order before we got to that point. And no character seems to be as powerful as Wanda Maximoff, and no character has a power set that is as ill-defined and unexplored as Wanda Maximoff. So it seemed exploring that would be a worthwhile post-Endgame story. He continues on saying, the big question is, who else is aware of that power? Where did it come from? Did the Mind Stone unlock it? And that kind of refers back to Marvel Studios Visual Dictionary, which refers to her power, saying whether it was altered her or merely unlocked something latent inside of Wanda, the Infinity Stone on Loki's scepter bestowed incredible powers of the mind. Remember, as was set up in this universe, the gifted kids of Quicksilver and Wanda were created, their powers, at least right now, were bestowed in the way of Loki's Mind Stone.
Right now is the
Yes, right
question.
now. Yes. Well, not I take it back, not Loki's Mind Stone, of just Loki's scepter,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah. Let's ask that same question when we get to February because I feel like Feige never says anything accidentally. And we've talked about this as a maybe and like a very strong possibility. They are now in the process of setting the groundwork we are going to fully retcon and make her a mutant. And I don't think in the same way of like we've talked about this, it's not gonna be House of M, blah, blah, but in the way of that they are changing enhanced to mutants. They use the word enhanced of Ultron because they couldn't use that M word, but now they can. They can use that history and that lore, that canon. I think they will. And this is a little step, again, like what we just talked about when Clay asked about Namor. This is another little step. If they even hint at or talk about, there could be a moment where we see Sword trying some stuff, right? There could be a moment where they subdue her and she's unconscious, whatnot, or something. They're doing tests and everything like that, and they look and they reveal to the audience like, oh, this wasn't the stone, she's had this power her whole life, it just was you weren't able to unlock it. And then that creates a whole new, and maybe that is, I know Greg's probably jumping somewhere, but maybe that is how, if Wanda hears that, I always am like, why would they say more mutants? But still, like, maybe that is a thing where she goes, you know what, people are being held back, I want everybody to feel what I'm feeling, which is a very dangerous choice to make. But I think that we are getting that. So I don't even know if they'll use the word mutant in the show, but I think you're on your way to it, and it makes sense. And again, we've talked about this before. I'm just very excited to see what they do with Wanda. She's a very underrated character, and Elizabeth Olsen's a great actor, but I think the mutant at least is coming at some point.
Yes, it is. And again, I've said it before. You know, Agatha Harkness is who Catherine, in my opinion, is pretty much whose character is being. She
Mm-hmm.
knows Wanda's powers, and there's a lot of comic precedent for that. So
Yeah,
we will see. So again, January 15th, I believe, is the release
oh,
date. So we're gonna
can't
get
wait.
more and more. So
Oh, I can't wait. But yeah, we
all
will
right,
take our yeah.
that is our 2 hours plus worth of news.
That was a big one. So yeah, we're gonna take our last ad break here so we can get to the Fact or Fictions and Comic Book Club. So we will be right back. And we're back. I don't know why I just had this in my brain. It came out because I'm looking at the picture of myself, and it's I realized these lights just make me look like I'm in the throne room from Last Jedi.
It
I
really
just
does.
I saw this quarter. I was like, oh great, I'm Snoke. I'm about to get you know what? I'm Kylo Ren in this situation. But last week we had, of course, Fact or Fictions. It was my turn, so I will pull them up. Where are your results? It's always we get the results, and then a bunch of people hit us with notifications and stuff like that, and then it's gone. So let's see. I don't know what this tweet was. It was somebody tweeted us at when I tweeted out the episode today. It said, "I don't think any downloadable characters will save the game unless there is a certain." Oh, I see what the person. Okay, so this was from Cell Dope Comics. He said, "I don't think this is referring to the Avengers game. I don't think any downloadable characters will save the game unless it's a certain X-Men slash Avenger that becomes available." So yeah, we could have.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about later. Listener stuff. I agree. I don't think it's one character. I think it's several and a lot of story slash good DLC. But yeah, it's a good point that I think you'd need some. I think Spider-Man is a big enough thing that I don't think we'll save, but I think that we'll get a lot of at least Sony people back on board. So unfortunately, he is just he's not coming over to anybody else. So here we go. Fact or Fictions. Peter Parker and J. Jonah Jameson will physically have a scene together in Spider-Man 3. And then I put quotations home invasion, just to spread that out there. 75% fact, 25% fiction. So the audience agreeing with you and Nathan. I went on the fiction route. You can go back last week to here. Let's see. Spider-Gwen will appear or announce to appear in a live-action Marvel film in the next 5 years. Fact, 60%, 40% for fiction. So not so close to 50-50, not so strong on that one as far as the fact. It won out, but people are still, I think it is a tough one because that's why I put 5 years, because that is relatively still soonish if you think about it. So I understand why that one was closer. And then the final one, Tom Holland Spider-Man will one day don the black suit symbiote in the MCU.
Symbiote. No, we don't acknowledge.
Fact 64% and fiction 36%. So there you go. Again, everybody disagreed with everything I said except for the fact one. So that was the only one on Spider-Gwen I got. But other than that,
You're always comfortable being on the opposite side of what the majority say.
I am. Everyone thinks I hate everything, but I don't. It's just even Chris in my Marvel chat, he's giving me crap. He's like, "Oh, you always rain on the parade." I don't rain on the parade. I just throw out truths. Stop making prequels.
I got called as the Debbie Downer the other day. I can't remember for what I got called that at that point. I think Travis Hines called me out for something like that. I can't remember what it was. So
no, Travis is just Mr. Positive, so that's why. Unless you're talking about CW right now, he's pretty down on that, to be honest. But
we all
it's your turn. It's your turn this week. So what do you got?
All right. So my first one is we will see Jessica Jones' introduction into the MCU in a Captain Marvel movie as a cameo at first.
She can be Jewel.
We're just gonna go Jessica Jones.
I will. So I'll say fiction because I don't know how this answer could change after we see the sequel, but I just wonder how much she's going to be on Earth. Obviously,
correct.
The second one sounds like she could be on Earth with this crossover, but if she ends up being in space a lot, I'll say fiction. I know they're friends in the comic book, so I see that they could potentially happen, but I'll say fiction for now until I see that second one, because maybe she will end up somehow. If she joins the Avengers, I think, okay, she's maybe transitioning, but I could see her also being just fully space like Guardians eventually. So I'll say fiction for now.
And it could be my other thing was as a possibility. I'll say fiction right now as well, but the possibility is changing her character just a bit, maybe making her part of Sword. If
Okay.
Captain Marvel 2, that's where, again, we take the idea of the character and just bring her in at that point. So,
Yeah,
but
I
I'll
like
still
that.
say
That's a good
fiction.
change up. Yeah.
Not going to change either one of my mind at that point, because again,
Yeah.
it's just next one. Disney Plus will take a cue from HBO Max and greenlight a new series called Nova Corps within the next 7 years.
It's tough. What do they do with this very overrated
And,
Marvel character?
and well, I'm not even saying like the character per se.
I
I'm
know, I'm
just
just
talking about
joking.
Nova Corps, but it does it if we're Marvel is talking about, and they've talked about a while, these next couple of phases are leaning towards the cosmic at that point. What better way than to re-bring in, even though yes, we heard what happened in Infinity War, that the planet was taken out or the Nova Corps were gone.
Off screen.
We got the snap that they've come back, hopefully back to existence, or enough of them come back to existence. But yeah, that's where kind of my thought processes was at this point. If we're going cosmic, let's bring in the quote unquote Marvel version of the Green Lantern Corps as Nova Corps.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think he's over it. I just like to,
I know.
Give Brent a hard time. Send him those Mephisto pictures. I'll say fiction because I think it might be too close, and then I think because I feel like we are gonna get. I know we talked about this today in our group chat. I think we're gonna get Sam just because I think he's the more current one, and I still always question why anyone at Marvel greenlit a character named Dick Rider. It's just a very strange. I know
Richard
things
Rider.
change, but it's just. Well, if you shorten his name, it's Dick Rider, and it's a strange thing for like a kid's line. But Family Clay, maybe help me out. It says due to Champions being a possibility, I'd say yes, but it's too similar. That's my thing. That I think you will get Sam. I think he'll almost be the last of his kind because Nova Corps was taken out, and that's why I think unless it's a prequel,
Snap changed it.
It brought them back.
Yeah, he said the idea of the snap is bring everything back the way it was. Nothing additional.
But so here's the thing. I feel like he was talking about that snap in particular. I think Thanos went there and destroyed the planet. I don't think they count because Heimdall didn't come back.
True.
Right?
No, you're right.
So,
no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. I take that back. You're right.
So that's where I think he will be out there kind of lost. And unless it's a prequel, and again, if it's a prequel, then that's almost very similar to the Green Lantern, which is going to be an anthology show that like has stuff in the past. So I'll say fiction for it's kind of the same thing. I'd have to see how he's introduced, but I think I'll say fiction because I think Nova, like our main one, Sam, will be only the operating one for a while. Maybe he's looking for his dad because people were talking about, oh, would you do Richard Rider? I think maybe that's the case. Maybe he's looking for him or something like that. But I'll say fiction.
Gotcha. I'll say fact because I like the idea. I've wanted to see the Nova Corps being brought in. I again, if we'll see how Sword kind of takes off, but I like this idea of a galactic police force that's been there even before Sword came into existence. So maybe if I can't get a Nova Corps series, maybe within the idea of Sword, this Nick Fury Sword series at that point, maybe we'll get a little bit like that. I'll take Nova Corps wherever I can get it.
Terrible job they did though, these space cops, just let Thanos get all these stones and everything. My goodness.
We didn't get to see what fight they actually did put up.
Yeah.
So. Kind of like they said, we'll kill you off screen. I was like, oh, that's unfortunate.
They got worse than Alderaan. They didn't even get a planet blow up. They got off screen killed.
Did you lose anyone on Alderaan?
Everyone. I lost John C. Riley. C. Riley.
What a jerk guy asking that question. Ugh.
Oh, I know.
Why? Dumb question. All right, my last one. The first villain of the Fantastic Four, the first villain the Fantastic Four will face will not be Doctor Doom. The villain will come as a result of a mistake that Reed Richards makes while exploring the negative zone when he allows Annihilus and his horde to escape into the 19999 universe.
So if Reed Richards is gonna become the new Tony Stark, creating all the MCU's newest big bad guys,
because this has very interesting potential.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Annihilus. That I remember just seeing his look and having the exact opposite of every characters, and I go, I really like that. It's not like dislike his look. I was like, what is that? Why is he almost like this human, like weird bug thing? And then I got into him more, and then so it's tough because I've always said that I think Doom is just so tough because I just don't know where he's going to pop up. We've talked about obviously things
And
could
it's
change,
not
but
saying that he can't be in this first
yeah,
one necessarily, but he will not be the villain.
exactly. And that's my point of I could see him popping up in Black Panther 2, popping up other places, and popping up in this. I'll say fact. I think the thing that's tough for me is that it's going to be specifically a nihilist. Like that's where it's tough. But
Mhm.
I think if you're trying to find out who's another big villain that has big consequences to the film, to the story, and it's not Doctor Doom and not Galactus, because you don't want to start with Galactus either,
Yeah, no.
and you don't want to do Mole Man or whatever. So it's like, where do we go? So I think I'll say fact. I think you're right about Doom, or at least that would be fact. As far as I think Doom could be on the side. I think you build up to him. I want him the same way as Thanos. I don't think you need to go Doom route right away. He can be Victor Von Doom for quite a while, or even just Doom on the sidelines working the shadows. He doesn't
Well,
have to be there.
well, even and again, people say, "Oh, we've done this before with, for instance, Doctor Strange or something like that." Saying we have a disagreement with how Reed and Doom want to address, take care of, or take out an Annihilus at
Mm-hmm.
that point. Because Annihilus is from the negative zone, and Reed's a big explorer of the negative zone.
Yeah, and I think that would be good for them because I don't know. I wonder what they're gonna do if they're gonna be married when we get the Fantastic Four. Will they already be together, or is it gonna be they're starting the relationship or right before they get married? I don't know. It's gonna be, but either way, you can kind of. I think some of the best storylines you can go back for our comic club when we tackled Civil War. Some of the best iterations are when Reed and Sue have a disagreements, because it's an awkward situation. They're leading a team, but they're all both husband and wife, and I think it's also very relatable too. Not making it some relationship drama, but making it as far as luckily I've never had to discuss with my wife or future wife of how are we going to save this planet. But you still have conversations where she feels one way, I feel another. How do we some way meet in the middle? And I think that's very relatable to people. This is on a grand scale. So I'll say fact. I think it's right for potential as far as the MCU goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fact on this one. Just out of all the possibilities for a Fantastic Four kind of making a turn and kind of bringing a better respect to the Marvel's first family at that point. I think this would definitely put them on it. Oh, they're going to go toe to toe with basically a what could be also considered to be a Avengers level threat.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it puts them on a big scale. And then I think it's also a character that it's good because Doom you can wait around for. Even Galactus, who is just a poo cloud, this is their own stamp on it. It's a new character. It's something they can mold and formulate. So I think again, just makes sense for the MCU.
Yep. So, all right. Well, let us know what you think, listeners. We'll be posting those later this week, and curious to see what you all think. So,
Mm-hmm. So now it's time for Comic Club. We are in honor of, so as we've said before, what we're kind of doing is a kind of, the old Hollywood system, one for you, one for me. And we're doing every time we'll switch off. The next time we do Comic Club after Vision will be a fan voted one. We have a couple selections that we'll put out there when we get to there. But that's kind of what we're doing is, one we want to do or one that'll time with something and then a fan one. So we're doing this one luckily we're all fans, so these are kind of all fan ones. They're all great picks we've had so far, but
yep.
it's also timely because it's not the only arc that it's taking from. But again, especially reading this, there's lots of vibes that is going to be
Yeah.
happening in WandaVision. They've cited as inspiration, so that's kind of the idea. Is we might do that going forward. Like when Hawkeye comes out, read the Matt Fraction run. I would love when Moon Knight comes out
We
for
got a
the
lot
first.
of issues to read with that one. 29 issues. Whew.
Yeah, maybe we'll select some or we'll do some double ups. But either way, we got, like even when Moon Knight comes around, I'd love for Christopher Son to
Mhm.
read that 2016 one there. So that's the fun thing as far as, and that's why now we're doing one because Chris had the great idea of doing two for the week. But then when they pushed it further than we thought, we were like, oh, we could be done it by the time the show is even here. So there'll be some like crossover, but it's going to be good. So this is like a good lead up. And, this was I've always said this my introduction to Tom King. I had not if I'd read his work, it wasn't like me knowingly just like, oh, I read something and who's this writer, cool. This was
Mhm.
and I think for most people, to be honest, this put him on the map as someone you got to look out for. He's a name now in comic books that you look at now what he's done. I haven't read it yet, but Rorschach, that's a big title to give somebody. Batman, so he's getting top level talent as far as comic book characters. So this really put him on the map, and it made sense because we'll get into it, but I think this is a series. It really caught me off guard and surprised me. And I'm not going to go into the whole issues, everything. I'll let Chris go. But there's one moment where So you have the cover, and you have just his family, his synth family, everything, and they're going through the door. They're looking all family. And I remember hearing the praise and going, okay, I got to read this, and I wait till it was done. This was not when I was reading weekly. I wait till it was done. I was like, okay, I got to read this. And I remember seeing the cover being, is this just going to be fun and weird, or is it dark and weird? And for the first little bit, it is just kind of like, oh, okay, this is just going to be a fun, like really,
Weird.
yeah, weird. And that's fine. That I was going to keep reading because I like that type of stuff. But there's one moment where, and we'll get into it, but these certain neighbors meet the visions, right? And they're talking to him.
Yep.
And then we have a narrator, very Desperate Housewives style. And as they walk away and they say, and in the future, one of the Vision family members will light their house on fire and kill these people. And that's where it's like, holy shit.
It's like, oh, I did not see that one coming. Wait a minute. Did he just say that?
Yeah. And that was what hooked me to like, yep, I think I'm going to enjoy this. Like Chris said, I would enjoy the fun, weird stuff, but that's where it's like the cover, you can't tell if is it going to, because comic books all the time, a more fun, adventurous, just a, a good time comic book. I like those as well. So that was my first thought. Also, that happens this issue, we'll get more and I have more to say, but that was my first thing of I was interested, read it, and just that line hooked me because I went, okay, we're gonna get a little like Stepford Housewives kind of vibe here, which I love. So
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much dealt with in the first issue. Vision literally created his family, and not imagine it, literally created his family. And I like the kind of discussion in the sense of that he has his wife as she throws away the cookies because they don't need to eat cookies. um, but even before that, the neighbors, the wife having this debate with the husband is like, "Oh, he's a robot. No, he's a synthezoid. What's that?" Not many people know what Vision really is, but the conversation he has with his wife about like they seem kind. Is like, well, what do you mean seem kind? Is that are you trying to slight them? And like he's more experienced because he's been in this world forever, outside of his demise at different points of his life, but he's had the ability to better understand, even though he has those moments where he doesn't understand the human race. He's got to do that not only for his kids but also his wife. And it's kind of interesting, you created your wife and you created kind of your kids. Like, how does that work in the sense?
well, yeah, and that was the pitch that always got me in. Right? What's this about? Oh, well, he created a family. Oh, really? Because even if it was the weird kind of just funny comic book, it is still this fact of okay, so you've created this wife and children and stuff like that, but then how much can they almost act out, and we'll get in that in the series, but how much can they act that isn't almost like according to you, because you are still like created them. It's almost like a almost time travel thing of like if you go back and change some stuff, it's like, and then you go in the future and it's changed, like yeah, that happened, but you were the orchestrator of all that. So it's like none of this would have happened without you. You're kind of playing God, and that's what he's doing here. He's like Dr. Manhattan-esque in a way of playing God to try and keep him happy, but it's like, can he really be happy with knowing he created this and there is this weird, yeah, it's just weird, and that's what I love about it, and especially his wife, because it doubles as far as one, you hit the nail on the head as far as him kind of educating her because he's been on this planet for a little longer, but it also just like comes off, and that's where I think Tom King's best work is with relationships and dynamics, because his Batman run, I've not read it all, but the reason I fell out of it is because the overall story I was not into, but his Batman and Catwoman stuff was great. He was great at defining their relationship, so that's why I can't wait for just that Phantasm kind of spin-off coming up with him, because I think he nails the relationship stuff. And that's where even this relationship, yes, it's about human English and whatnot, but it's also just like a husband and wife having like a little almost bickering thing of like, well, I said it this way. I said, and like if you've been in a relationship, you can relate to that as like, well, I said seem kind because seem nice seems like lots of people say that with like a sarcastic tone or ironic. And he's like, well, it's ironic because of this. And she goes, yeah, but, and then so it was this good back and forth. So it is like a double entendre of it works towards the character's deep psychology of being on this planet more, but also it's just like, yeah, this happens to couples, so it's like, oh, maybe this will work.
Yeah, and he's basically a liaison for the Avengers in the White House at that point. I do love this design of Vision that
very
the
different
artist. I really like it. It's probably one of it's pretty just if I were to pick one of my favorites, definitely be on it for the design. But like he's saying, like I need to start getting paid because the Avengers aren't paying anymore, and I need to like kind of sustain a family, and the wife debating what to do, and the kids kind of learning to navigate being quote unquote teenagers in high school with all these powers and abilities. They fly off. They don't need to walk. They don't need to go by a bus, and it's
Are you
just
normal?
yeah, that whole thing, that sequence, are you normal? Is like, what do you mean by am I normal? Like,
Yeah.
what is normal in this sense? I mean, as we tell people all the time, normal is what you define it as, but society kind of also has the ability to define what is quote unquote normal.
Well, and then even then talk about normal whatnot. Vision's learned so much, but to me, if you look at like the names of his family, it's like Virginia. What is it like Viz, and it's just like
Yeah.
it's just like again, it's like he's learned so much, but at the same time, it's like you're just naming them like little versions of you. Like it's still like almost like a very robotic way of thinking of like little code names for his children and his wife that are just like spin-offs of his name, and that's where it's like he's and it's just fun seeing Vision being like, yeah, I got to try and get a job, I'm paying. But that's the thing they do, and that's where I think the WandaVision show will do this as well, where they do stuff like Ordinary World, and that's where that conversation at the beginning, it is comedic as like, oh, is he a synth, blah, blah, but I feel like that's conversations that a lot of older generation has or have had when people were lots of things were coming out about sexual orientation. Oh my goodness, sexual orientation, or people being transgender. That's like, and not even in a negative way, just people trying to figure out like, okay, what do they go by? People even learning these years of like the he and she like pronouns and stuff like that. So it's like it was one of like a fun like back and forth, like why am I bringing this robot cookies? But it was almost like a okay, this is a new norm. If you look in the Avengers world, this would be another okay. Now robots are living among us, and what is that like? What is how do we address them? Same thing, like you want to call people a peculiar thing. You don't want to offend them because you're not involved in that community. So that's why it's like, okay, what would you like to be referred to that? Same thing as like, is he a robot? No, it's a synth. He has organs. It's like, but is he still a robot? It's like it's this back and forth. So
Yeah.
it's all good, relatable stuff in this like really weird sci-fi world. And even the kids, as far as am I normal? Kids that are normal will get asked that because there's kids that are rude or like to be boys.
Hmm.
And that's the thing where it's like that's where I think the strength of this is, and obviously we're gonna get to some weird plays, but the strength of even just this first issue is it's in deep sci-fi, but all the themes are relatable so far. Yes, I'm not a synth, but just even that, like, I gotta get a job, I gotta pay more, I gotta support the family. It's like we've all been there, minimum, we've all been there where it's like I gotta make more, I gotta do
Hmm.
more, I want to achieve a greater success. And yeah, and I like little nuggets when they're even like, oh yeah, he's kind of maybe had like a falling out with Avengers. I like the little seeds that the neighbors are like planting of like being like nosy neighbors and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and it's just like I think Tom King in both this and Mr. Miracle, and even to some extent with his Batman run, is identity.
Yeah.
And you kind of hinted towards that, like, seeing Vision kind of staying in bed, like having these concerns and worries, about, I must love my wife. I do love my wife. This is my life. And then, the wife trying to stay, as he takes off to go after he goes to Avengers Tower, working with the family. Then we get the sudden shock of his daughter getting basically stabbed in the chest by the Grim Reaper, who's losing his mind, saying like, again, you stole this, not you stole this personality or these ideas from my brother, who his brother is Wonder Man.
Yeah, and again, I like that it just kind of gets placed there because he's saying some things, but we don't exactly know what's
Yeah, we
happening
think
right
he's just
now.
crazy.
Yes, exactly. And anytime you're dealing with Grim Reaper, it's just like he's just a funny character. He's just such. I hope one day we get him on screen because he's such like a C level type of guy. It's just like the
See,
Grim
who
Reaper.
you lift
Yeah.
him up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I even love when we're talking about WandaVision lately, when they have the two beds thing. It's just like in WandaVision, right? They're sleeping in separate beds. So again, we see kind of some influence there. But what we've talked about before is, I think it's a thing I will say probably every comic book club, but a reoccurring thing in great comic book runs and issues and stuff like that. Especially in your first issue, you need a hook, and the daughter getting stabbed by a supposed Grim Reaper and then being murdered, and then going, well, what are we gonna do about this? That to me is very, and I was a big fan of it back in the day, very Desperate Housewives. They shove it'd be these regular house moms who are just like cooks or stuff like that, but then for some reason they're having an affair with a neighbor and kill them. What do we do with this body? Obviously this is a high sci-fi Marvel world, but it's one of those things of like it's a good cliffhanger of what's going on with the Grim Reaper, why was she attacked, and what do they do with this supposed maybe dead Grim Reaper. So
Yeah, she goes to, like, she's protecting her family, but basically like he looks dead.
yes.
And we don't know the status of, you know, Viz at that point, if she's gonna make it through. Um, it's Viz, right? I always mix up the characters at that
I
point.
is Viz or she Liz or something like that, and the boys Viz. Again, these names, I think I might have it here, but where is it? See, my daughter Viv, my son
Viv.
Vin.
Okay,
Yeah,
Viv. Yeah, Viz. I don't know why I'd say
yeah, and then my
I'm
wife.
doing short for Vision. Yeah, Viv.
Yeah,
So,
and then
you
my
know,
wife Virginia, the twins, which again looks like
oh, twins. There we go.
which is funny, and we didn't even think about this. In WandaVision, everyone's jumping to Speed and Wicket, but it could be like these type of twins where it's just like these characters that are completely just made up, right? So we don't know.
Yeah, and just like we don't know the status of the daughter. She's left by saying mother, mother, mother. We know she's basically malfunctioning at that point. She's
Yeah.
basically all her innards have been teared out. We've got Grim Reaper on the ground. My assessment is dead at that point, but she just says, "Don't tell your father," and that's where we kind of leave it. And this is going to be kind of a big. This is going to be more of the very dark humor. There's a lot of dark humor in this idea, and we will get Scarlet Witch. I think it's going to be towards the halfway point when we finally look at Scarlet Witch coming back into play of the series. But again, I think a big thing with this is identity, and I think even WandaVision is identity.
Yes.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Well, and they've talked about that with Wanda too, of just exploring not even her powers, but her character. As we've talked about that, one of the probably longest characters around, but least explored when you really think about what we know about her. So, yeah, again, I'm very excited to get to those dark humor moments. But again, even reading it already I'm glad we're doing this for the show because it's getting me more excited for the show, which is good because in a world where everything was getting delayed and whatnot, you lose that little steam. But now it's like, okay, reading this and seeing just like even like I said, just even if it's just the single beds, like seeing little inspirations. Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, it is. So, all right, number 26, volume 26 in the books.
Yeah, almost went 26 hours for all this news there, but yeah.
Hey, well, you know what? It's poetic for at least United States Thanksgiving. We stuffed you full of Marvel.
Exactly. You got your whole fill. And because who knows, because this weekend might be again another lighter one because the holiday's coming up. So hope you got your fill in there. If it is lighter, we'll figure out some topic, but we'll be back with Factor Fictions and Combo Club Vision issue number 2. So as always, great episode, Chris. Thank you for joining me on this. It was always a good time. I'll look forward to next week and the week after and all that,
Yeah, I'll stick around.
Yeah.
We've got 26. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that means he got a whole month to try eggnog, folks. So let's get on it. You tweet pictures of Brent and Mephisto, and then tweet pictures of eggnog and Chris. And then tweet pictures of Michael Fassbender from Shame to me, and you can do that at Travis B Snail on Twitter. I'm on Geek First.
I'll say this to many people. So, do you think this bothers me at this point?
Yeah. So you can tweet me there. Be on Geek First, doing Mandalorian reviews. I'm usually dropping maybe on a guest here or there on the Ultimate Alliance Network. Just tons of fun stuff. And thanks to everybody that listens. As always, it's I'm gonna be putting out a post a little bit, but again, this was our biggest month, and it was our biggest month 9 days before the month ended. Usually, it's like the last 2, maybe 3 days, even the day before the month ends. It's like, oh, we not just got over it. Like sometimes it is just like literally when it was September, October, which is like, oh, just by 50 or 60 more, still bigger month. But this was bigger by a considerable amount, and the month's not even over. We still got 6 days when I'm recording this in time. So again, just thanks everyone for supporting, whether it's Patreon or the feed, because it's especially now it's like we're getting content, but even the times where it's been light, same thing as tomorrow, we've had light weeks and you guys support us. So again, you guys made this our biggest month, and it's just been a great 6 months already. It's going to be 6 months at the end of this month. It's flown by, and I cannot wait because it seems like between Wonder Woman and WandaVision, we're going to be getting some really good stuff, and I'm excited to be talking about with everybody.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know. I can't think if we mentioned at the top of the show. We'll Travis and I will talk offline, and we may put it out there like what we're gonna do with Marvel 616. If we're just gonna do an episode, kind of review episode by episode, or we'll just maybe watch a few and kind of give our assessments on stuff. But we'll definitely be talking Marvel 616 next week.
Yeah, I watched one. I had to watch. I won't say anything. I watched the Dan Slott one because there was so much talk about it, and it was an
Mr.
interesting
Slott.
episode. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Mr.
It
Slott
doesn't say anything controversial, but yeah, no, yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll definitely at least talk about, because what I liked taking Dan Slott aside, great production value, was an interesting watch. So I think that's the good thing with all these, are going to be interesting. So
yeah. So, but all right. Well, yes, you can follow the show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow me personally at Chris Balga. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, fact or fictions, questions to answer on the show. You can please continue to rate and review the network on Apple Podcasts, whichever platform you listen to. Thank you, those of you who joined us in the chat tonight. Thank you, listeners, as always, to all of our friends and colleagues in the United States. Happy Thanksgiving. And as always, be safe out there. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers.